What is up, guys? Welcome to Truth and Transparency. Good morning. I think it's a Hump Wednesday. Is that what it is today? Is today Wednesday? I believe so. Good morning, everybody. Come on in. Make yourself known in the chat. Let me know where you're from. We've covered here the Karen Read trial from start to finish. Didn't miss a minute of it, not even a second of it. Then we all waited in anticipation for a jury to come back with a verdict. Not gonna lie, I thought there was no way in heck that this jury could possibly deliberate that long, and that we were going to be seeing a not guilty, truthfully, across the board. Then hours started passing. But before those hours started passing, the jury came right out with a question out the gate, which is, where was the cert report? Well, there was no cert report. So poor jurors. But then fast forward to, we have a hung jury, but then fast forward to just several days after, not even, I think one, after the verdict was, hey, we're in an impasse, was Alan Jackson contacted, right? And holy crap, do we have a problem here? Because the jurors are like, wait a second, we're seeing reports and nobody was hung on the fact that Karen Read did not commit murder. Like, that murder was off the table. And so was count 3. So the only thing that we were talking about was count 2. There is a motion in for dismissal of those 2 charges, and Bev and the Commonwealth still have to reply, right? Now, while that's transpiring, on the same day that all hell breaks loose about, holy shit, Karen Read's going for, these charges to be dismissed, which I think that they should be. It's going to be really interesting on how everything's responded to. And if they talk about the fact that, did Alan Jackson have an opportunity to say something and he didn't, things like that, what case law is there, and things of that nature. But on that same day, we found out that Michael Proctor, yes, Trooper Proctor, the ridiculous pig, who made ridiculous comments in a chat with his buddies, but also a chat that featured his coworkers. Okay. Now you're going to hear it first here. I'm going to tell you guys something real special, which is they want to say that Michael Proctor, okay, was put on administrative unpaid leave after this past hearing. And rumor has it that he also talked about the Kevin Albert situation, that him and Kevin Albert worked this case, and they went out and they had their guns and their badges, and it was just, they were all drinking and driving, things like that, right? And whoa, we heard about it, and we're just like, damn, this dude just confessed on the stand, okay, to committing a crime, right? But but there was then reports coming out that Proctor, after his wife, Lizzie Proctor, said, I support my husband. Okay. Well, she didn't realize what that truly meant. I support my husband. You're damn right, girl. You're going to be paying the bills now, because you're going to have to support his ass, because he doesn't have a job that's paying any money. All right. So, Lizzie, be careful what you say in public. I support my husband. Yeah, actually you do. Financially now. Go get it, girl. Support that man. Hopefully he's a good lay, but if it is true, and that Trooper Proctor, and this all has nothing to do with his investigative abilities or not, or his professionalism or his integrity, and if this truly just has to do with the text messages about the disgusting statements, well, then how would it not be that all of these other troopers that were in a group chat that thumbs it up? Okay, let me tell you something. I've gone to court, and you commenting, not by using any words, but by actually hitting one of the emojis, like thumbing it up, it is showing that A, you've read it, and B, you approve it. Because a thumbs up is equivalent to, there's precedent in court. I was part of it. that is acknowledgement, and that's approval. Just saying. So be careful about those group chats and what you thumbs up, where you put your thumb. Okay. Now, okay. All right. Now, question. Let's really get the ball. Let's really get the bell going. If Trooper Proctor was true, like, hey, we're looking into this because of his words, okay? Don't you guys think that Trooper Proctor probably has not only group messages, like you can't sit through a trial and just put out everything that this man has done, all right? But don't you think there'd be like 1v1 text messages with people, not even like a group? But if it's true, and if the reporting is true, and you're going to try to sit here and tell me that Trooper Proctor was placed on he's not getting paid, right? Basically, he's done, right? Total like hardcore move off the bat, if you ask me, which is awesome. Then that would mean that there's going to be stuff coming down that pipeline for anybody that would have been in that group message, especially if it wasn't reported. Somebody got on that stand during the Karen Reed trial and stated that they reported what Trooper Proctor did. I call bullshit on that. I want to see a report that was put in where they're reporting Trooper Proctor for the group messages. Or rather, I'm sorry. He said he didn't report it, but he didn't reprimand him, but he had told him in person or something like that. Well, I can tell you that is not going to be good enough. That's not what you're supposed to do as a superior. So if it's true and Trooper Proctor is being handled this way because of the text messages, everybody in that group message is fucked. That's just the bottom line. Otherwise, Trooper Proctor has a lawsuit on his hand against, this is what happened in Washington State University. That's prejudice. You cannot go after Trooper Proctor and then not do anything to these other people, because then Trooper Proctor, okay, has a lawsuit. Okay. That's just bottom line. He would have a lawsuit. He would be able, that's prejudicial. It's a problem. So I can promise you that down the pipeline, there's going to be other hearings with these officers. No doubt about it. Otherwise, I'm telling you, Trooper Proctor he can argue that. It happened in Washington, and the guy got his job back. And I was like, why would you want to work for a bunch of people that totally fucked you? But whatever. I think he just more or less wanted all that cleared. But then he stayed with the department. Anyways, now let's get to the fun stuff. Kevin Albert. Yes, Kevin Albert. You know, I asked myself, why didn't the defense call Kevin Albert to the stand just to stick it up that man's ass? Just to get him on the hook for making statements about X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, there had to be a reason why he wasn't called to the stand. But I would want, hey, you're going to call him because I want him to, I want to rope him in on some of these answers. Well, lo and behold, the first person that gets basically pulled in, and we found out last night at the, they made it known also at the Canton Select Board meeting, which we're going to get to. There's fireworks that went off in that. But it was made known to us that, hey, Kevin Albert is being investigated. And so right now he is under paid leave. He's getting paid during this leave. And the person that decided this was none other than the police chief right now, who was the person that handed over the video, okay, Helena Rafferty. And she's the one that handed over the video most recently of the Sally Port. And remember I told you guys that during the trial, I was like, oh, hell yeah, we're calling Helena Rafferty to the stand. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to see this on when the defense takes over this case. Because you know damn well the Commonwealth wasn't going to call her, and they didn't call her. But the defense had every right to, because then she became relevant, you know? I'd want to know about some stuff about this. But that didn't happen. So we didn't hear from Helena Rafferty, but we heard from her just recently when she came out saying that based on, okay, so I have sources that told me that the Karen Reed trial was like Little League. After the Karen Reed trial, watch what happens. And so far, that's been accurate. Watch what happens. What happened after the Karen Reed trial? First trial. If there isn't going to be a second one, we'll find out. Fireworks came after that trial. Okay. We the people want to make sure that this does not happen again to anybody else, right? So we the people, it's not just about Karen Reed being acquitted. It's about we the people never going through something like this again, because there's going to be another Karen Reed if we the people aren't vocalizing and getting these people out of positions of power, authority. There's nothing more powerful than somebody in authority and that who has connections up the chain, right? Sean has said it best. I think we've said it over here as well. Alan Jackson and Yannetti called 6 people to the stand. 6 people, 3 of whom were never going to be called. Think about that. They never knew that there was going to be these ARCA guys, right? Because the FBI did that. And then a woman happens to see this, Marie, Dr. Russell, and happens to get in touch. So she was never going to be. So 3 people out of the 6 people that testified on behalf of the defense, and they only had 6 people, it was like they kind of switched up their game plan 100% at the beginning of this trial. And normally you start game planning for a trial of this magnitude way before then. Okay. So they switched up a little bit of their game planning. And they put those 2 people or those 3 people on the stand. And all three of those people had to go through voir dire. And of which Bev ultimately had to let them testify, but she limited their testimony. We saw that during voir dire. Now, I have right here, which I want to show you guys, because this is really important, because Sandra Birchmore was murdered. And it was at the hands of police officers that A, murdered her, and that B, covered it up. So when people are out there like Jennifer Coffeneffer saying, and so this is what this is one of the police reports from, and was written up by Michael J. Lank. And who's in this police report? None other than Kevin motherfucking Albert, which I will reveal the whole 3 pages, as well as I have every complaint and answer. And there are some really, really, really horrible things, though, that are written in the complaint of what happened to Sandra. But so there's a couple of things that we're going to be talking about, but that's what this is. Okay. So when I hear people like Jennifer Coffeneffer putting up a poll and wanting to truly talk about should Trooper Proctor's, she wanted to talk about the Walsh case. It's like, it's like somebody that wants to compare oranges to apples. No, not every case that Trooper Proctor has ever worked on was he framing people. Okay. Trooper Proctor has no ties in that case. Jennifer Coffeneffer. He doesn't know her family, his family. He wasn't, so that type of stuff, like you look like an idiot. And she's a fucking idiot. And she's a disgrace to the FBI, because there's no way in hell that the FBI is like, God, we're so proud that she was one of ours. Go get him, Jennifer. Okay. Should I forget about the White Rose just till now? Oh, remember the White Rose? Go check out my last episode if you want to learn about the swinging lifestyle in Idaho and what the cops do and what the PTA moms do. Anyways, no, it's a heart monitor. Scrublet. Yeah, nice name. So let's get back to what happened last night. Not only did Kevin Albert, the Alberts had a day last night. Not only did Kevin Albert get basically suspended, paid. He's going to get paid for during this time of investigating, but we always know what that kind of leads to, guys. They have to do that because it can't be biased, and we're investigating something. But right now, we're going to put you on suspended paid leave. All right. But Chris Albert then comes out at the Canton Select Board meeting last night and reads off of a piece of paper like this, and attempts to apologize to the Canton citizens. The Canton citizens get an apology from none other than Chris Albert, who he had to read off of a piece of paper, his apology, and he couldn't even, it's like, who wrote that for you? Because you're stumbling over the words to even read that are supposed to be your own words. Dead. So we're going to take a look at that. So let's take a look at this Canton Select Board, and let's take a look at that. Now, it's the trigger warning. I'm going to laugh my ass off. So if you have a problem with that, go watch it somewhere else. I'm going to stop it at times because I literally have to pick up my jaw off the ground. All right. So if you didn't come here to enjoy this with some popcorn, because I cannot believe that these people don't realize that they literally are true. You don't need to go and watch Saturday Night Live right now. You just need to watch what is going on in Canton, and it is enough humor for your life. Like Canton is the circus of all of our lives right now. So let's take a look.
Well, new development.
Chief Rafferty has placed Kevin Albert on paid administrative leave while an outside, and please be quiet.
Well, new developments out of Canton. For the last month, Canton officer Kevin Albert has been on paid administrative leave. The move was announced last night during the Canton Select Board meeting.
Well, chair members say an independent investigation is looking into Albert's behavior with the lead investigator in the Karen Reed case.
To say that meeting was heated is an understatement.
Oh, no question.
It's a joke.
Live in Canton right now with more on what happened at the meeting. Minaj, please bring us up to
Minaj
speed.
A12, what you got for us, baby?
Well, it was on the second floor of this building right here. Many people huddled inside where the chairman of the select board revealed that police officer Kevin Albert, who is the brother of Brian Albert, that's the man who owned the home where John O'Keefe's body was found, was placed on administrative leave nearly a month ago. Now, after he said that, there was an audible gasp in the room with many people surprised, but he went on to say that the reason is because, quote, actions in a case he investigated with Trooper Michael Proctor approximately 2 years ago. Now, the timing of this is something to note. Albert was placed on leave June 13th. That's
Okay, so I want to speak on this. I want to just rewind that little. I want you guys to be able to see that little writing. I always kind of like to dissect the words of people just because it's kind of fun for a second. Okay. We all knew that they could not make moves during the trial. That was going to be an unwritten rule that that everybody had talked about. Listen, you will disrupt the integrity of this of our investigation and of the pursuit of justice for John O'Keefe if any moves are made during the trial. So they were all in agreement that nothing would happen to anybody for any reason. Think about this. During that trial. Now, what if Karen Reed was found guilty? Think about this. What if Karen Reed was found guilty? What would be happening right now? Would we see this? What would be happening if literally Karen Reed was found guilty of count 2, okay, and that they knocked off count 1, count 3, but they went ahead and they said, okay, we're going to go ahead and find Karen Reed guilty of count 2. Would we be seeing anything like this? And the answer should be, we should be seeing it all, okay? Because one should not affect the other. If you're truly talking about integrity, and right here, this would have absolutely nothing to do with the Karen Reed case. Just because it came out at the Karen Reed trial that these two buffoons worked on a case together 2 years ago, what would that have to do with the outcome of the Karen Reed trial? Think about it. We should be seeing this all, right? But if you truly want to be honest with yourself, none of this, Tom's like, they'd all be getting promotions, guys. Let's not be kidding ourselves, right? But if you think about it, they couldn't. Like, this would have to come out regardless because this has nothing to do with Karen Reed. What case was 2 years ago that these two were looking into? So Chief Helena Rafferty has placed Kevin Albert on pay. This is what Michael C. Loughran said, and this is Lucky's, what is it, brother? This is what he said at this is what he said. This is what he said last night. Okay. He read also from a piece of paper. Chief Helena Rafferty has placed Kevin Albert on paid administrative leave while an outside independent investigations. I think that's a typo. Being conducted relative to his actions in a case he investigated with Michael Proctor approximately 2 years ago. So they're investigating his actions, the conduct relative to his actions in a case. So would those be his actions of drinking and driving? Because he wasn't drinking and driving. Proctor was. Or are these his actions within his actual duty as a Canton detective? So this is very wordy. Okay. Very wordy to the point of who the fuck wrote this up? Okay. Helena, why aren't people demanding that fucking police chief to get her happy ass the fuck out in front of the steps, wherever, of the police department, all the pink shirts, get down to the police department and demand that this woman, we want a press conference. We want a press conference. Why is this man speaking for this police chief? Nobody speaks for me, and I'm just a YouTuber. Okay? Nobody speaks for me. You want to know what I have to say about something? You don't go find out from another YouTube channel. Come right here. Listen to what I have to say. That's what I say. Nobody speaks for me. So why would a police chief, Helena, come on, man, and you're just totally ruining it for the women, man. You finally get a woman in that type of a position, and you're playing ass grab with what the good old boys still. Get out of here. So why this woman needs to go and speak out in front of the police station. I don't believe that this is how this should come out. And this whole little whatever is just a bunch of word salad. Blah. Okay. So my question is now, is it Kevin Albert wasn't driving, right? So what are these actions? And how do we know So Trooper Proctor got on a stand and basically ousted. He told the truth, right? He's like, anything that they ask me, I'm just telling the truth. Because I got the feds watching me, man. All right. It's one thing, fuck, I'm going to lose my job, but I'm not going to prison. All right. Because how do we actually know that Kevin Albert wasn't actually the one that was doing things? How do we not, like, we weren't there for everything. We don't know who was in that Sally Port. We don't know all the people that were in there, right? And the more I've dug into who had access to that Sally Port, into that police station, okay, Proctor wasn't the one that was swiping badge cards. That was Higgins and none other than Kevin Albert and none other than the past chief, Chief Berkowitz. All right. So I cannot wait for this part to unfold more. But this right here saying why you placed him, and if it has anything to do with, again, like I said, off-duty shenanigans, or like you were on duty, but then you were off duty when you went to go drink. I mean, but you're in your all of this, if that's truly why, then all these police officers should be hauled in, and they're like, Higgins should be the same thing. Higgins was drinking and driving. They had to lie and say that Higgins was in some Jeep that I don't believe he was in because nobody saw that Jeep. So why isn't Higgins being investigated the same way? Because if Higgins, in fact, had his truck there, then he's driving a issued police vehicle, law enforcement vehicle, drinking and driving. So, and then what was Proctor on 2 years ago? And what is this case? And why is it all hush hush? And they said it was a cold case. And I don't believe that Sandra's case 2 years ago would have been considered a cold case. That's what kind of throws me there. The Sandra Birchmore case, okay, 2 years prior to, like, are we talking about like 2 years from 2000? What was the actual date of that? You know, but Sandra Birchmore's case was considered a closed suicide case. And then a civil suit was launched. Nothing criminal. So I'm very interested in all of that. But the Alberta, yes, the Alberta are unbelievable. I love it. That's our new name for the Alberts, or the Albertas. So it's interesting because the Sandra Birchmore case was never a cold case. It was not some open homicide investigation. This was ruled a suicide. And so maybe they're twisting up their words when they want to say we were working on a cold case. You know, Proctor saying that when really, you know, it wasn't a cold case that they were working. And but was there a cold case out there? Is there a cold case? So I want to look into homicides in the area that are unsolved in that area that could be considered a cold case, because maybe we can get to the bottom of that case. Anyways, back to our shenanigans here. Check it out.
Now, the timing of this is something to note. Albert was placed on leave June 13th. That's one day after Massachusetts State Trooper Proctor, who's now suspended without pay, testified in the Karen Reed trial. Now, Proctor admitted to parting with Albert on July 2022, which is months into the Reed investigation.
Your chief of police, your select board members are part of a cover-up. And that's earth-shattering for townies.
Also,
Okay.
in the meeting, Chris Albert, who is Kevin Albert's other brother, publicly apologized for 2 outbursts he made some time ago, saying that stress and anxiety his family has really undergone over the past 16 months is the reason for that. But for right now, we are live here in Canton.
Why didn't they show the apology? Like, you guys only do a clip for like 4 minutes, right? Can't you do a clip for like 8 minutes, and you're not gonna, it would be like not even 4.5 minutes, and put in Chris Albert's apology? He's reading from a piece of paper, so we'll show you guys the apology, but yes, the original townies here, guys. What were these outbursts? Well, one of them was 100% the most recent Turtle Boy, and that was right before or during, you could say, it was a Sunday. when Turtle Boy and his girlfriend went to McCarthy's to eat after they were doing a he was looking into that's what I was doing when I was there, checking out the area with the phones. I wanted to see the service in the area. And so Turtle Boy was checking out these roads that supposedly went like this. And that's like, John O'Keefe's phone was just registering those flights of stairs because Karen Reed's going like this with the car, like all through these hills. Like they're in Beverly Hills driving around and everything's flat. So, hold on. So let's go ahead and then bring up now here's the actual, here's this apology. Young Jerks just clipped it for me, so it was nice and easy. Here you go. So thanking them.
Simple as that. If you want to talk to somebody else in that room, both of you go outside and have the conversation outside. Thank you.
Thank you, officer. All right, before we get on to the next agenda item, we have two statements to read. So, Mr. Albert, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Okay.
Okay, so pay attention here. This is Chris Albert right here, and he is about to read from a piece of paper. Okay?
As many of you know, I've had two recent verbal altercations with members of the public outside of my role as a select board. Despite the tremendous harassment, stress, and anxiety that my family, extended family, and I have been subjected to over the past 16 months, my interactions were inappropriate, and as an elected official, I am held to a higher standard, and I understand that the residents of Canton expect public officials to always conduct themselves professionally and focus on the business of the town. I apologize for my recent reaction and will refrain from any further public incidents that are unbecoming as a member of this Canton Select Board. Thank you.
Wait, right there. There's Rita. Look at Rita go. She's like,
Thank you,
she's
Mr.
like,
Albert.
I'm done. I can't listen to
An additional
this shit.
statement. Chief Rafferty has placed Kevin Albert on paid administrative leave while an outside, and please be quiet, while an outside independent investigation is being conducted relative to his actions in a case he investigated with Michael Proctor approximately 2 years ago. Kevin Albert was placed on leave on June 13th and will remain on leave until the results of the investigation are provided.
So this just gets announced. So nobody knows about this. So June 13th is when Kevin Albert was placed on this leave. We're just finding out about it yesterday. Okay. June 13th, he was placed on leave. How did this not get out? Okay. Talk about deep secrets over there. How did this not get out? June 13th. We're just finding out about it yesterday. Okay. And rewinding this, let's take a look at, again, the struggle bus here for Mr. Chris Albert to read his own supposed, either written work or he typed it up. But if these are your own words, you should know what you have written down. And listen to this stutter job.
They're unbecoming as a member of this Canton Select Board. Thank you.
He doesn't even look up once, even after he apologizes. He looks down. He does not look up. Look at the whole time he is reading this. He doesn't look up one time. He does not make eye contact with the people.
Out of my role as a select board, despite the tremendous harassment, stress, and anxiety that my family, extended family, and I have been subjected.
He wants to make a reason. Like, he has an excuse. He's going to tell you guys this is why he did what he did. So he's saying despite, and then gives us his reasons why he's under such, stress and anxieties because they've been getting harassed. No, it's people have been, this isn't harassment. This is people talk about you. Like, people are talking about you. People are talking about your actions. People are asking questions. That's not harassment. Okay? That is not harassment, guys. If there was harassment, there would be evidence of harassment. And I want to see that evidence of harassment. But people asking public officials questions like he is, people talking about public issues like the Karen Reed case, like we have been, that is not harassment. All right. Who's like, if you can't take the heat, get your ass out the kitchen. We on a mission. And that's from Coolio back in the day. Great words there, Coolio. If you can't handle the position that you're in, get out. Somebody else will do it. But I'm so sick and tired of hearing about this harassment. And no, your anxiety is coming from a murder that lies are being said about. That's what it looks like to me. Guilty consciences. That's what it looks like. But here, he can't even look up.
To over the past 16 months, my interactions were inappropriate. And as an elected official, I am held to a higher standard. And I understand that the residents of Canton expect public officials to always conduct themselves professionally and focus on the business of the town. I apologize for my recent reaction and will refrain.
My recent reaction. He's reaffirming that he didn't start it. Like, this is so PR'd, it's not even funny.
From any further public incidents that I'm becoming as a member of this Canton Select Board. Thank you.
And he doesn't know his own writing because he didn't write it. Okay, that's what it looks like to me. He doesn't even know what's on the piece of paper. Rest in peace, Coolio. We on a mission. So yes, they just blame. Like, blame. Wild shit, right? So one Albert has to go first, and Chris is like, I'll go first, and I'll apologize first, and maybe take the everybody can just like focus on that and not about my brother who's next here. Look at doesn't look up. And these people are clapping, and I'd be like, boo. I'd be booing him, man. Boo.
Thank you, Mr. Albert. An additional statement, Chief Rafferty has placed Kevin Albert on paid administrative leave while an outside, and please be quiet.
Please be quiet. Let me get this off.
While an outside independent investigation is being conducted relative to his actions in a case he investigated with Michael Proctor approximately 2 years ago. Kevin Albert was placed on leave on June 13th.
You guys, June 13th. Holy shit. Holy shit. Ah! You guys, that is almost a month ago. All right. Who in the crowd was cheering and clapping after his apology? His wife. That's right now the comment of the day. You know her ass wasn't in that motherfucker. She's over there in hiding, saying, God, I can't believe I said Bukkake on the mic. Sergeant Bukkake, I think his name is. Like, what? It's not even close. Oh, hell, how embarrassing. Crazy chick, where you been, girl? Welcome. Robin, thank you so much. God, how do you say the name Bukkake during a murder trial? Then the cops showed up, guys. The cops showed up. There was 5 cars there. All right. 5 troopers or Canton officers or whoever they are. They showed up at this board meeting. And how do we know this is because Rita went live and was saying how all of a sudden 5, what do we need cops here for? Mama Rita. Yeah, 5. Rita calls it out. There were Chris clan members there. Okay. I got really nervous for Jen last night, says Sherry D. Why were you nervous for Jen? I think Jen can hold her own. I think Jen's a badass. Yep, June 13th, the day after Proctor testified. 100% correct. See, so they were watching and they knew what to expect. they knew what he could be testifying to. And once he outed that, and once the questions were asked upon by the defense, right? Trooper Proctor, he began his testimony not on June 12th. So it wasn't until direct examination. Okay. And they just knew what to expect. And that's just crazy. And how long does it take to investigate something? Like, what's he going to be on paid administrative leave for, like, what, 6 months while we're investigating? And if you're truly investigating, then let me tell you how that works. You're the person that you want to go talk to would be what? Michael Proctor. And is he saying, I'm not talking? You could talk to my lawyer, right? So now it's going to come up. My question is if you're investigating stuff and you have probable cause, do they have probable cause to get Kevin Albert's phone records? His historical data phone records. Do the police have Kevin Albert's phone records? What do you guys think? Michelle, $10 Cash App for love hearing you laugh. Makes me laugh. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Cash App. Cha-ching. Just for that $10, I'm going to make sure I get a twisted tea and drink it. So the Idahoans, it's a hoedown, can get rowdy. I'm going to be in Idaho next week. People are going to lose their minds. So when you hear a knock at the door, it's not pizza. Maybe I'll bring a pizza with me, but hi, this is Truth and Transparency here. I was wondering if I could ask you a couple questions about the murder of Dr. Drake. Hi, this is Truth and Transparency here. Want to know if I could ask you a couple questions about your neighbors here that were murdered in what is being called Idaho 4 case. I noticed that your vehicle was parked very peculiar in the day after the murders. Were you in a hurry to get home that night? As it was on a really weird slant. Yes, I have an appointment for the massage therapist that's next to the building that Dr. Drake occupied. Hi, yeah. Was wondering if I can get a rub down while I asked you questions about the Drake murder. Right here. And then, hi, Miss Jennifer Drake. I was wondering if I could ask you a couple questions. The town wants to hear from you. We're just going to come out and ask you, did you have anything to do with your husband's murder? Anything at all? No soliciting. No solicitors. I'm not selling anything. So yeah. Hot mic moment with Matt McCabe when he learned that they had the group text messages makes me believe, yep, they have it all. Well, I think they didn't have Kevin Albert's messages because there was no probable cause yet to get his messages. Well, the FBI maybe, but you have to also understand that FBI turning over stuff to both the prosecution and defense, some stuff they didn't. So I'm curious if now, June 13th, during this investigation, has Kevin Albert's historical phone records been, obtained? So, yes, Sean has been saying this for a minute that John O'Keefe reported Colin Albert to the Canton Police Department for possibly selling drugs, and that there's a video attached because he was doing stuff in the neighborhood. What I think's even more interesting is that Chris Albert, remember I said it back during the trial, how did Chris Albert not have John O'Keefe's number if they were such good friends? How do you not have his number up until the night that he was murdered? Really strange, right? And during their text exchanges, John specifically asked if Kevin was going to be around. Really interesting about that. Kevin jumped up and wanted to look into whatever John O'Keefe had brought to the table. This is all alleged. And So I'm curious as the dates to all of that, if and when it happened. I really want to look at the date when when Chris Albert moved off of John O'Keefe's street, and they moved. But yeah, Kevin Albert jumped up and said, "I'll take that." Again, this is all alleged. Rafferty addressed it and lied about OJO Colin drugs. Well, we'll find out if it was a lie. We'll find out if it was, if this is being investigated from even above Canton, all eyes are on Canton right now. And when all eyes are on you, I mean, you can either be an idiot, but it's like if you kind of already know that they have stuff on you, like, what do you do? Like, I'm surprised that the Canton board, like, why wouldn't Rafferty just resign? And get out of it, right? But instead, the select board re-ups her for another year. Okay, why? Why, with all of this shit going on, would that even be a move? But now, think about it. They did it after she placed Kevin Albert on administrative leave. So it's interesting. And you guys, cops are just like us. Like, if they can't prove something, so if the chief can't prove something that these people did that's in her office, but she knows that they're dirty, okay, but she has to be able to prove it. So I want a little bit more cards to be flushed out here, because I want to know truly where the problem lies. Because it takes a long time to clean house, unless you really have to do a lot of exposing. And I blame the local media over there for a lot of issues, because I'll tell you what, local people in the media, you get to them and you don't have them run stories. That's what makes the public not informed. The media is to inform the public, right? Very similar to what went on in Bonners Ferry with the Brian Drake case. The media didn't report anything on that case. There was a murder, and there hasn't been a murder since, like they said, like 1969. And you have a murder in 2020, okay? How is there no media surrounding a murder of a chiropractor doctor, okay? Like, your chiropractors just don't get murdered in their office after a day of work. Like, that just doesn't happen. Like, something's up, right? Especially one that's a traveling doctor. But guess what? The media, they haven't done shit. And in fact, I'm waiting here on a live to call. I'm calling 9B News, and I am asking them why they haven't run the story. I reached out to them and I gave them the 911 call. I was like, I know that you guys have never had this 911 call. I'm giving you this 911 call. I want you to run a story on the 911 call. There's a problem here. And I gave them the CAD notes. I gave them the 911 calls. And I said, you need to run this. I said, and then you're going to run your little story that you let Jennifer Drake come out and talk about. You're going to run that back to back, because she's lying. Because there's no evidence that her cell phone ever called 911. So what number did she call from? Or did she record this 911 call on her own, because it just poof ends up in evidence without any chain of custody? So I'm comparing that case to this case, because it's two small towns that are being hushed, and the media is supposed to be informing the people. Well, now we're all watching the Canton board select meetings, because the people are actually the ones that are informing the people. That's not how it's supposed to work. Think about it. Take Turtle Boy out of the equation. What kind of coverage is there on this case? Take me out of the equation in Idaho. What kind of coverage for Brian Drake and Dr. Drake's that case? Where's there any coverage? But here, I personally reached out and gave information that you think you would want to put out there as 911 calls. Like, everybody wants to hear 911 calls. And that 911 call needs to be heard of the wife who became the widow and what she said on that 911 call, because it is damning to the crime scene of that case. The media in the West is gone to shit, says Sandra. Well, it must have, but can't. Who's next to fall? So we have so number one is obviously Proctor. Okay, number two is Kevin Albert. And something huge is going to come from that Kevin Albert. If when you say you're investigating something, his phone will tell you a lot. I want to know if he has any calls in the middle of the night, any text messages in the middle of the night. We were able to put pieces together because we had some of the puzzle, his phone records. Oh, whoo-wee. So who's number three? When is Yuri Buchnick going to be on the chopping block? I want Yuri Buchnick on the chopping block. I want King Selfie on the chopping block. And the reason why is because there is no way in hell that he did not know what was going on, or he did not know that there was a conflict of interest within his own partner, because guess what? He drove everywhere that day with Proctor. So he was in the vehicle when Proctor was on the phone with everybody that he talked to. That means Buchnick was a witness or a contributor. So you can pick and choose Buchnick, but I think we saw what he picked when he didn't out any bullshit during the trial. So there's just no way that you drive around in a car with somebody the whole entire day on January 29th and not realize that something is wrong, that they're doing things that are not ethical. And then he's the one that testified to the inverted video. How is he not being under investigation for literally looking at a video in a trial and knowing, because it's him, it's his actions, right? That's him in the videos. They put that video through his testimony. So let's ask ourselves this. That alone should have him being questioned, because it wasn't until the defense said something and Alan Jackson made this known. If I don't question you on this video, you said that this was a true and accurate representation, and Lally led you down that path and you confirmed it, saying yes, yes. Well, here, then I finally get my fucking hands on you and I'm questioning you. And then you're going to say that it was an inverted video, but it's the same. It's just mirrored. And he literally wanted to argue with Alan Jackson in a courtroom, saying that video, it's the same video. It's just a mirrored image. And it's like, just like your selfies that you take of yourself, buddy. That's why you think it's the same, because he is king of selfies. He stands in the mirror, takes off his shirt. And you guys seen his social media? He loves himself. And he was at some wedding riding the pony. And so I'm trying to make my new little badges for when you become a member of this channel. And I want each of my badges to be the faces of these police officers. Okay. You've now jumped up your membership to the bukkake, baby. Yeah. And he's riding his shirt. He took his shirt off, whipped it around, and then he put it between his legs, and he's like, dancing, grinding his shirt. You guys know what I'm talking about when guys do that at weddings. Well, that's bukkake. That's Yuri Buchnick. That's that type of guy. He's that guy at weddings that gets all the way down to having no shirt on, taking his white undershirt that all the good Italian boys and their moms would put them in the nice fresh white tees, or what you would call as a wife beater, underneath their nice button-ups. See, I can talk about this. I'm Italian for days. My dad was born in Italy. And I'm Irish for days. I'm 50-50. Best mix ever, right? And so, yeah, all my cousins would be dressed up in their nice stuff. But before they could get into their nice stuff, you had to put on that nice, fresh white tee. And my aunts were always like, get over here. Get over here. You know, where's your shirt? Where's your undershirt? Putting those kids in those undershirts and then, you know, buttoning them up. And we're going to baptisms and whatever. But we'd always have weddings. There'd be like a wedding during the summertime. Oh my God. We were going to a wedding like every other weekend. Huge family, big Italian weddings, you know, 350 people. And you're always asking your family members, hey, am I related to that person? Okay. Cause who's that guy? Oh, who's that? Okay. So I'm not related to them, right? All right. Or then you find out like, oh yeah, no, that's your second cousin. Okay. Make sure you don't get too drunk over there. But Yuri is that guy that takes off his shirt and starts grinding himself with it and then whipping it around. And then they start playing Raining Men and he's doing the damn atomic dog dance. He's that guy. So if you've never been to an Italian wedding, you need to get to one. Lots of fun. Always open bar. You don't have an Italian wedding and not have an open bar. You would get laughed up out of town. So I think he should be on the chopping block next. I think he lied under oath. I think he knows everything that took place that day, right? He was with Proctor. And he was in that group text. Was he not? Who else was in the group text? Greek weddings too, same thing. Good. You know you're in a big family when you're saving up your envelope for the summer coming up. You're like, oh man, I got this wedding, this thing. So God, that's 6 weddings, man. That's $600. Like, and that's if I'm just going, depending how many people I'm, taking with me. But yeah, you don't pass up that open bar. And then not to schedule anything until the afternoon of the next day. You're going to be a little slow. So who's up on the chopping block next? I believe it should be good old Yuri. Now I want to show you guys something else, which is, I don't know if you guys have seen the report of the Sandra Birchmore. Have you guys seen the 3 pages for the police report? Again, how does Lank get his ass involved in this shit? I don't know. Kerry Roberts will spill if threatened with prosecution and given immunity. It's interesting. What do you guys think Paul's saying right now to himself? Like, God, I wish I wouldn't have done that interview. Okay. And since I have all of you guys here, and I love crime scenes and I love what people think about crime scenes when they see something like, hey, can you spot something that's out of the ordinary? So I'm going to show you guys a gunshot going through a window. And I want anybody that's out there to truly take a screenshot of this. If you are friends with the police in any departments, or if you're friends with lawyers, I want you to take a screenshot of my screen that I'm going to show you guys here in a minute. And it's going to be a really good angle one. And I want you to send that around to anybody that is in law enforcement. And I want somebody to have the cahoons to come on my channel. I'll drop the link, come on my channel, and you tell me that this gunshot came from outside in versus inside out. And I want to see you have the balls to make yourself look like a complete buffoon. Okay. Take a screenshot of this and get it on over to Sean. He's ex-law enforcement. Get on over to Jen Koffner. Get it over to somebody that clearly wants to come on my channel to debate me in this gunshot. God, my group text messages are just going crazy, these people. I look down, I have 31 text messages. I'm like, what the fuck? What should we have for dinner? Oh, chicken or steak fajitas. That sounds great. Sounds great. Both. That's how I answer the group text messages. All right. This is the Sandra Birchmore right here. I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but this is Sandra Birchmore's one of the police reports written by Michael J. Lank on 2/4/2021. This is another reason why I do not believe that it is a cold case, because it was ruled a suicide. And it was almost 1 year to the date. Okay. 1 year later from, 1 year before Karen Reed's case. All right. So I was working as the patrol sergeant for the 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift. At approximately 10 a.m., I was notified by SRO Officer Cottard that he was going to be conducting a well-being check on a party at, and this is a Canton address. That's where Sandra Birchmore lived. The party in question, Birchmore, Sandra, had not shown up for work at the East Middle School for several days without notifying anybody at the school. These officers responded to that address in an effort to make contact with Birchmore. Once on scene, Officer Cottard notified me that nobody was answering the door. Officer Cottard was able to locate the subject's vehicle in the parking lot. The vehicle was covered in snow and appeared to not have been moved since the snowfall on Monday. So here we're dealing with another snowfalling incident. Just talk about random situations. Then, being unable to reach anybody at the apartment, officers on scene were able to make contact with the property manager, and who provided them with a key to access the apartment for a well-being check. Upon entering the apartment, Officer Cottard located Birchmore in the bedroom, deceased, with a black strap around her neck. Again, trigger warning, which was tied to the bedroom closet door. You guys, this is like how Robin Williams. It's very similar with that. The scene, which was tied to the bedroom. At this point, the scene was secured, and Officer Yeton requested my response to the scene along with Detective McCourt. Once on scene, access to the apartment was limited to Detective McCourt and I. Firefighter Whitley, guess who that is? That's part of he testified in whose case? Karen Reed's case. Okay. Once on scene was secure. Oh, state police CPAC unit was notified and responded to the scene. What? Same thing as in Karen Reed's case. CPAC, right? State police. See that? Same type of situation. Karen Reed. Lana, who in the hell would be crazy enough to debate you? I don't know, but I'll treat it like a pure, sweet debate. Like 2 minutes for each question, both sides, no interruptions. But I would just love it. Winner gets Twisted Teas for a month. Well, and we'll let the audience decide who won the debate. While waiting for the CPAC unit to arrive, again, remember, this is Officer Lank, same guy in Karen Reed's case that was really good friends with the Alberts family. He was the one that was asked to come back with the cell phone of Jennifer McCabe calling him because Julie Albert gave him the number, like Lank's cell phone number, that is. So that's who Lank is. While waiting for CPAC units to arrive, I went to the rental office and met with the property manager and maintenance supervisor. The maintenance supervisor was able to access the video. Look at, they went immediately to go get this video camera. Okay. Let me ask you guys a question. Why didn't Officer Lank, when he was on scene for the Karen Reed case, was a police officer, why didn't he, in any of his reports, say that he went to any of those neighbors to try to get security cameras? This was a whole year before, so we know that Officer Lank knows how to canvass an area because he went and got the surveillance cameras from the apartment complex. He did this immediately. He said while waiting for them. So he did this immediately. So why didn't he immediately have one of those officers go door to door and see who has a Ring camera on their door, who has any surveillance cameras on their, like, at their property? Then where are we at? Here we go. The video is motion activated because he is able to access the video camera system, which only captured the interior entrance to building number 3, which was the residence of the deceased. The video is motion activated and captures people entering, exiting, or any other motion in the front lobby. While observing this footage, I observed Birchmore's activity in the following order. And guess what was left out of this? So this is the famous video that we see on the Sandra Birchmore case where she's walking in and out of her apartment in that lobby. But then the famous part of where that bigger dude is coming in later afterwards at like in the evening around like 6 or something. Look and see. Sunday, leaves building at 9:51 a.m. She's on the telephone. This is how he wrote up his report. Sunday, returns to building at 10:08 a.m. carrying a large box containing a baby car seat. Sunday, leaves at 10:11. So she basically goes inside, puts it in there, and then leaves right afterwards. Sunday, returns to building at 1:15 p.m. with 2 pizza boxes and talking on the phone. Sunday, leaves at 4:39 p.m. Sunday, returns to building at 4:41, texting on the phone. So she just left for 2 minutes. I was later informed by this guy that Birchmore is captured again on camera leaving the building on Monday. So why are you looking at just Sundays? Look at this. On 2/4. Why aren't you looking then at 2/4's day to start with, then going and looking at 2/3? You'd work your way backwards. 2/3, 2/2, you know what I mean? But right here, if you were to work your way backwards, you'd actually been reporting. So right here, I was later informed by this guy is captured again on camera leaving the building on Monday. And she returns at 5:46 p.m. holding a snow brush. If you were to work your way backwards, how did you miss this? How did you miss this? So February 2nd, it comes like you should be working your way back because you have somebody that's dead in an apartment. Okay, we're going to see, look at the things. When's the last time that this woman did anything? Well, Lank tries to make it seem like he was planning on it, that just we're putting down this date. Well, then it was actually the maintenance guy that was going through the footage and said, hey, we actually have her the next day, which would be February 3rd, right? Okay, because February 2nd is Sunday. And so he's like, hey, we have her on Monday, February 3rd. And it's at 5:46 p.m. And now my question is, remember here up in the beginning when it said that people, the party is questioning Sandra had not shown up for work at the East Middle School for several days without notifying anyone? Well, did she not go and work? Did she not go to work on Monday? Because she's alive Monday night at 5:46 p.m., right? So basically this whole report is just complete and utter shit. I dissected it and I did a little timeline of the dates and what they actually were. And somebody called it up here, my father's keeper. Atlanta, February 2nd, 2021 was a Tuesday. Yeah, exactly. Look at Lank. Lank, you have a really huge problem in your hands. February 2nd, he's saying is Sunday. Okay. That's how I caught it too. No, he just labeled the days wrong, like a complete fucking idiot that he is. So here we have this day. Then report, page 2 of the report. Wait till it gets to Kevin Albert here. Kevin Albert's in the report. Okay. Now, that Birchmore was seen on video. While reviewing the video, Porter was able to obtain Birchmore's file and locate her emergency contact. Darlene Smith, that's who put out and did and is in charge of everything that has happened with, see, all of these. Darlene Smith is in charge of, and she did, and she's the one that started all this shit up. Good for her. But here's the first time we see her in a report because that's her emergency contact, which is her aunt. Oh, I met with Trooper Dunn. Guess who Trooper Dunn is, and guess what case he was involved in? None other than who? What? Where? Where is that? Right there. Trooper Dunn. He was on the witness list for the Karen Reed case. Trooper Dunn. Trooper Dunn was involved in the Karen Reed case. We're going to hear from Trooper Dunn, I promise you, if there's a trial too. That I know. I advise them of all the information that was obtained thus far. Okay, so upon returning to the apartment, I met with Trooper Dunn and Tufts from the state police. Okay, so I'm just curious, like, upon returning to the apartment, like, when was this? I advised them of all the information that had been obtained thus far. The scene was processed and photographed by CPAC unit, okay? Oh, so they did the photographs? Oh, so you guys didn't have Officer Good there taking photographs while Link's pointing out the blood pieces, supposedly? Okay. So they're saying that the photographs, CPAC took it. The medical examiner's office was contacted and responded to the scene to take custody of the body. It was at this time that Officer Nix was able to get in contact with Darlene Smith, who was currently in Raymond, New Hampshire. Officer Nix advised her that Birchmore had been found deceased. Smith told Officer Nix that this did not make any sense to her and went on to tell him that, she was very happy because, she was expecting a baby. She's pregnant. Okay. She was unable to respond to the scene as she was out of state at the time. Thursday evening, I was contacted via email by Aaron Porter, who is the property manager now. Thursday evening of what? So what day would this technically be? Okay. Thursday evening of that week. So basically what? You know what I mean? Like Thursday evening when? It's just, what a horrible fucking report this is. She stated that she had seen somebody entering the building on the video footage that she believed was Alexander Stenstrom. And the only reason she thought this was because there was a guy that Sandra Birchmore was referring to the building as far as, being a tenant living there. But she straight up says that he applied for housing a few weeks back with recommendation of Birchmore. She said she was not positive due to a face covering, but she wanted to bring it to our attention. I advised her that we would look into the matter when we were able to access the video footage again. What do you mean when you were able to access it again? What the fuck are you talking about? This is what happens. When you find out there's footage, okay, you get your little search warrants and you are going to take the DVR. You're taking all of that, okay? You're taking it all. You're making copies of everything. You're providing people even with, here's a hard drive, here's a thumb drive, So this to me, when he says I advised her that we would look into the matter when we were able to access the video footage again. Right there, I want to know, what does that mean when you had to access it again? How did you not have a working copy? This is a suspicious death. You don't know what happened here, right? On Saturday, now 2/6/2021, now check out how crazy this is. Anybody that's looking at this report would see that, okay, he's saying that Saturday is 2/6/21. Well, that's funny that February 2nd, 2021 is a Sunday for them. Like, how can you mess up this bad on a report? Oh, but they do. But these reports matter because they're memorializing like everything that went on. So here, this guy is saying, this guy, on Saturday, 2/6/2021, I returned to work as the patrol sergeant on the 8 to 4 shift. Once at work, I noticed another email that had received from Porter stating that she had a concerning phone call on Friday night around 9 p.m. and would like to speak to me about it. I contacted Porter immediately. She told me that she received a call last night on their emergency line from a party named Tina Thompson. Redacted. She said that Thompson was very upset and was making statements about Birchmore. She stated that Birchmore had been dating a police officer and that blank redacted. She told Porter that the police officer redacted, told Birchmore redacted, he would take care of the problem himself. This was about the pregnancy because Sandra Birchmore told this police officer that she was dating or whatever they want to call themselves, that she was pregnant and she was pregnant with his child. And so Tina finally found out that, oh my God, Sandra, what happened? And she's saying, oh my God, no, like I have to tell somebody something because this is what, this is not the truth. Like there's no way that she would commit suicide. Porter advised her that she would be speaking with the police and not her. Detective McCourt provided Trooper Tufts with all of this information as well as the contact for Porter. So now now Lank is shifting, okay? Like, hey, well, we provided this all to state police. Okay, guys. All right. Yes, Matthew Farewell is the redacted name. That is correct. Approximately at 1 p.m., I'm guessing the same day, okay? Like, even though he doesn't say, but at approximately 1 p.m., I'm guessing on Saturday, right? I returned to the Windsor Woods with Detective Albert. No fucking way. There it is. Detective Albert. Kevin Albert. Come on down. Kevin Albert, no way. So at approximately 1 p.m., I returned to Windsor Woods with Detective Albert. Now, this is what's interesting to me. They already called the state police. So is the state police on this case? And why are you picking up or meeting Detective Albert and McCourt? Because this Verissimo had agreed to meet us there and review more video from building number 3. We were met at the leasing office by troopers Dunn and Tufts. So these 5, you got Lank, you got Albert, you got McCourt, and then you got Dunn and Tufts. So instead of having like Proctor and Bukaki, you have Dunn and Tufts instead of those 2 names. Okay. So again, I have to ask you guys this question. Why are you going to that building to review anything when this would have been stuff that you would be obtaining, all right, as part of the case? You're obtaining evidence. So they have to go there to review this. While the video footage was being reviewed, I spoke with office leasing manager, this Kathleen woman. Faraday? Ooh. I told her that it had been brought up to my attention that she had spoken to Birchmore. This name was not said anywhere in this report. So this is another question for me. Nowhere in this report does he say that this woman's name was brought to his attention and that Sandra Birchmore was talking to this woman and who he heard this from. Right? I just was told this. Well, where? I just been reading your whole report. We have not come across anybody that has told you the name Kathleen. Now, I told this person, Kathleen, that it had been brought to my attention that she had been spoken to Birchmore in recent weeks before her death. She acknowledged that she had been. So Lank is taking himself away from the reviewing of the video footage and saying that during that time, I started talking to this girl. Okay. That they had spoken to her on a couple different occasions and agreed to speak with me about it. She said that she spoke with Birchmore about 4 weeks ago. And this was when she first learned that Birchmore redacted. Birchmore told her that the redactor, and that she seemed nervous about it. I believe that we're talking about learned that Birchmore was pregnant. Birchmore told her that the father was blank and that she seemed nervous about it. She told Kathleen that the blank, the father, was a police officer who was not happy about the pregnancy and did not want to redacted. Birchmore never told her where or in what capacity the police officer worked as a police officer. Birchmore went on to say that the two had broken up and were no longer together. At the time of this conversation, Kathleen believed that Birchmore was approximately how many weeks or months pregnant. That's what I believe that that's saying there. The next time that Kathleen recalls talking with Birchmore was approximately 3 weeks ago. During this conversation, Kathleen states that Birchmore seemed to be happier and joked with her about anticipating multiple packages to be delivered in the coming weeks, as she has blah, blah, blah. And I think that she was buying things for the baby. And that's, hello, she went the day. So you're not buying things and then saying, I'm going to spend all the, and then, going and committing. She also stated that once the baby arrived, she was hoping to move into a bigger unit within Windsor Woods. So you're planning for a future, right? People that are planning for their future and spending money for their future aren't usually those that are going out and committing S. Okay? As an officer, Officer Lank, and you have this report and you have this information, and these detectives hearing this, okay, WTF, what the fuck? She told me that she had a record of Birchmore's recent deliveries. She picked up 2 packages on 1/30/2021. There were 3 packages from Kohl's that were delivered last week, but had not been picked up yet, obviously. So then there's even 3 packages that came after by after the death. So there was 1 more package that had just arrived on this day today from Kohl's. The packages were small, and based on what Kathleen had told me, blank, 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 I did not open the packages, but brought it to the attention of Trooper Dunn and Tufts. Yes, Mary P., that's exactly what they were. They had a return address of that. After speaking with this woman, who's the manager, I returned to apartment 3307 with Canton detectives Albert and McCourt. We were accompanied by troopers Dunn, Tufts, and Sergeant Fanning now. So that's a new name, from the Massachusetts State Police. Once inside the apartment, my attention was brought to the large box containing, I think that was the baby seat. This was the same box that I had observed Birchmore carrying into the building on Saturday. I observed the shipping label on the box and noticed that the package had been delivered to Raymond, New Hampshire, which was the current address for her aunt. The apartment was further processed by the officers on scene. This, that's where I'm going to stop today with that. But this apartment had, it was like torn apart in that room, in like the living room. Somebody was going through and looking for shit. Your room, or anybody that would have seen pictures of this would have seen that there was shit everywhere. Okay, like somebody was like looking for something. Anyways, they then go ahead and they label this a suicide. And now this is the case that has come out where an ME has come out and said, no. This is a homicide. And it was all at the push by Darlene Smith to push for this case. And she had to do it through, basically, she did civil suits. And I'm telling you, when you guys do civil cases, that's why I think it's interesting when and if Karen Reed starts dropping the hammer on civil suits. You guys can get your hands on so much more in a civil case than you will ever get in a criminal case. All right? The burden, like, you're going to be able to get your hands on things. And so, why has nobody sued Turtle Boy? Why has the Alberts not sued Turtle Boy? Because they would subject themselves to being the party in a lawsuit, and Turtle Boy would have just as much, like your phone records and what you're doing. Exactly. Discovery is why. But if you truly want to like listen to what the Alberts are saying, they've suffered all this harassment, and so basically Turtle Boy is violating your civil rights, your civil liberties. Every citizen has the right to be free of everything that the Alberts are claiming. Why haven't they sued him? That should tell you everything you need to know. And that's because they'd be fucked. Now, when's the wrongful death suit? Why isn't when is Paul going to move forward with a wrongful death suit against Karen Reed? Well, I don't think that's ever coming, but don't you think that would be something that would be coming? Paul is like, he knew before anybody else. We knew that Karen did this. Well, then why is your mom saying things like, why did you leave him there? Why did you drop him off? Why did you leave him there? I left him with his friends, the people that are sitting next to you in the courthouse. What do you mean? Why did I leave him there? I left him, the people that are sitting next to you, people that you invited to sit in closing arguments, that's who I left him with. So why are you asking me that? If they're just such great people, why are you asking me that? I wish that was the case. Retired 5-0. All right, now I want to show you guys something, and you guys can take this to the bank, and you guys can ask all of your friends that are officers, okay, if let me see which one I want to use. I think I have to use the other one. Well, I can grab this video. Hold on. I made my own video for it. Give me a second. It's loading. Okay. Oh, 1 second. Let's see. Got it. All right. I want you guys to look at something. Here we go. What I want to be debated on. Ready? This is a gunshot through a window. I went and got an expert to do a crime scene reenactment with me. And so I want somebody that's in law enforcement to tell us that scientifically we're wrong after we show the reenactment here. But this is what you have to look at. Ready? I'm going to stop it at this angle, get a picture. And then I'm going to stop it at this angle, get a picture. Stop it at that angle, get a picture. Okay. And your job is to show that and tell me that that came from outside in or inside out. Debate.
Yeah, okay, you knew that.
No. No.
Okay, now listen to this.
Who's right there at the very top.
Did we get the spelling?
No, so that's
Right.
actually Eldora.
She's going to help you with the spelling.
Yeah, Eldora at the top, that's one word, and it's actually Gatchel. And she's the last one who saw him before he was shot. Yeah, okay, you knew that.
No.
Now, you
We're assuming that that's...
No, I know that to be a fact.
Okay, how is it that you know that?
Well, for one, I called him at like 6:30, 6:40, and he said, can I call you right back? I heard two voices in the background because I heard him talking. And so I said, oh, are you still with patients? He said, I run a little late, so can I call you right back? So
What voices in the background? Were they male voices or female voices?
I couldn't remember, but I can tell you how I know who it was, because then Eldora called me 2 days ago. She texted and said, please call me. I heard a rumor and surely it's not true. So when I called her back, of course, she was mortified and she said, I was the last one to see him. And I said, what time were you there? And she said, I was there at like 6:40, 6:45. And she said, it was me and my husband. And she said,
What's Eldora's husband's name?
I actually forget.
Okay.
I've talked with her so many times and I've only talked with her husband once, so I don't remember that.
So go ahead.
Anyway, she had said that she had just left him like 15, and I said, oh, I actually said, are you guys the ones that were in the background when I called? And she said, yes, you called. And he said, can I give you a call right back?
Okay.
So I know it was them. Now I brought that up to one of the, and they said that they had interviewed her, I think.
We have people going right now today to interview her.
Oh, today?
Yes.
Somebody told me they'd already interviewed her.
We will do 2 or 3.
Who told you that, Jennifer? I cannot wait. This is my 100% investigative journalism reporting. Jennifer Drake calls 911 and says that her husband told her that he was shot through the window. Okay, that's the window. And this is she's being interviewed by the police, the state police right here. And she's talking about something. But on the 911 call, she says that her husband says, ooh, ouch, ouch. Oh, I think I've been hit. I think somebody just shot me through the window. Okay. And I just showed you guys that window. I showed you guys, and I wanted to pause it, take pictures. How could anybody that is involved in law enforcement, even just from the looks of that window, think that that gunshot came from outside in? So when you want to talk about cover-ups, you want to talk about corruption, you want to talk about inept, all the things Canton. It's happening literally everywhere, guys. And this is a case that's happened in Idaho.
3 interviews of people. So that...
And then I went ahead and I did now.
This first happened, Bonners Ferry and Boundary County were out actively talking to people and making phone calls and trying to track down leads. So we're basically redoing all of that ourselves to make sure it's.
Oh, I see.
But you have the lead in the investigation,
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there might be another agency involved in the thing. We'll ask other agencies, the FBI, the DEA, because we're going to use their federal resources
Yeah.
to do a lot of things.
Border
So-
Patrol.
Oh, yeah. And we've used Kootenai County dogs. We had dogs up there. We had a lot of manpower up there.
Okay.
But Sergeant is the lead, and the Idaho State Police is the lead agency at this point.
Okay.
It's not going to go anywhere else. It's going to be with us, probably, 99% of the time.
Okay.
Um,
And I can tell you that is Lowell Graber, BER.
where?
Okay.
Sorry, just since you're looking at that.
Where's that?
Instead of grader, it's
Lowell
Graber.
Where's that?
On 1545.
Yes, it's GRABER.
Okay, who's this? Paul Jacobson?
Paul Jacobson?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
noticed he was here and here.
Yeah.
Who's that?
I don't know.
He doesn't ring a bell.
No. But he has a lot of patients that I don't know. A lot of them.
Has your husband ever talked about Paul Jacobson?
Cohen. Rachel Cohen.
Nope.
Yeah.
And we don't have a paper on Paul Jacobson.
It's black pouch.
All right. So then this is what I did. I then went through 18 business surveillance cameras. All of them had the time frames of anywhere between noon on a certain day, on the day of the murder, and then all the way until midnight. And I really focused on 8 out of the 18 because each business had multiple angles because they had multiple cameras. But I really focused on the 8 videos that they claimed they focused on. So I started there and then I worked my way out. Now, what I want you to take a look at is I found a police car. So I want you to take a look. Eldora Gatchel was the last patient listed for 6 p.m. that day, and text messages between Drake and Eldora reflected the appointment being set up. So Dr. Drake was expecting her, but Dr. Drake was not expecting Eldora's brother, or missed that portion about her bringing him. His name is Caleb. He was the one that was dressed in the all black with the silver vest playing the ukulele, because Dr. Brian Drake never added Caleb's name to the daily log for his appointments. Even after their arrival and alleged completed visits, which would indicate that Dr. Drake actually probably never saw him, because Dr. Drake would write those names down. But more importantly, based on how you paid and if you paid for packages, and let's say that I paid for a package, but I wanted my significant other to go, they could use from my package that I had. So then I found Eldora Gatchel's pilot leaving on the Columbia Bank cameras, but I found more than that. And here is where this is the Columbia Bank camera 7. This is straight across. And I want you guys to pay attention to we're going to see the pilot because I pause it, but I want you guys to look over here back. You see it's a light. This is the liquor store right here. So you have the liquor store's name, all lit up. But over to the right, you have a little dot. Okay, there's a little dot there that's lit up. And that would be the car pulled past a little bit too much. And so therefore the headlights were able to be seen. Okay, check this out. So there's Eldora Gatchel's pilot that I have. Okay, I found it. And watch what I find after it, though. I pay attention to the back light. Well, also, what I had passing by, I want to point this out too, which is there's the pilot. Now going the other way, okay, crossing paths here is right here, that vehicle right there. Notice how the front hubcap is way darker. When you get hubcaps or the rims and they're like rusted out. And notice how the back You could see it's more like silver, and this one looks more like rusted out. That is the very description of Isaac Funderburg's girlfriend's Honda Civic 4-door, white. Then watch this dot. There's the truck that I was able to eliminate after looking because I got more data. So that truck, that Ford truck, I was able to eliminate because I was able to go back and find out that it was coming from way past Dr. Drake's. But look at this dot. Okay, ready? So pay attention to the back where that dot is, where I told you to. There's going to be a car that's going to pass that dot. Okay, watch this. So there's going to be a car that's going to come past the dot right there. You see in the back, I paused it. So don't pay attention to the truck, but there's a car that's about to pass that dot right there. All right. And so when I went back and redid this, there's another angle. You can see, I'm going to pause it again. So don't pay attention to the truck. I want you to look in the back. And what I have found is none other than a police cruiser. All right, check this out. They're so fucked. Right there. Look in the back of the truck. You're going to see a vehicle pass, like it's back by the church, because that's what that is, like a church back there. And now I want you to pay attention to the dot that I asked you guys to look at from the beginning and watch what happens here. I'm just pointing out those running lights. Okay. But now watch. I circled the dot. I want you to watch this. Over here on the side is a road. So this dot, that's actually going to be a vehicle. It's going to come down El Paso and make a right onto Denver over here, or whatever the side street is over there. I can't remember if it's Denver, if it's, is that Denver over there? Here it goes. And this is, so you're going to see it come over here because it was waiting, and it's waiting, but it's also could technically be blocking. It could technically be blocking. So when there's what I was just able to see that nobody could go past where that dot was. And in fact, that car had to like go up and turn to like go into like the church area. And what it seems like to me is that could potentially be a car blocking so that you could not travel on El Paso that way. But so watch what I'm able to find. Right here, do you see that car backing up? Pay attention. This is because I do it backwards so I can show and prove that it is in fact the dot that actually pulled up, and it's the car that's waiting there as it turns on its lights completely. It's like, look at right there, backing it up. Right then, I watch where exactly it stops. Boom, bitch. It's a fucking cop. And that cop was sitting there. This is a Bonners Ferry 4-door Charger. And guess who drives that vehicle? The fucking assistant police chief. And that's the back alley. If you go just literally 2 little tiny blocks over, that's Brian Drake's back alley. Watching out during the time of the crime, or like during the time of the extended crime. And now watch this, and I got the police vehicle leaving, and this police vehicle was not supposed to be there. It wasn't working. And watch it come along. Notice there's the dot, and now the dot is going to disappear because the dot's going to be driving up, and it's actually a vehicle. So then here I'm just letting it play out so you guys can watch it in real time. And so there's Eldora Gatchell's pilot. The pilot leaves. Then you could see a car coming up past it. Okay. And not sure if an exchange of any sort was made. Not sure if somebody got out of the vehicle over there, ran over the cell phone. Multiple things could have happened. But after that vehicle passes and does whatever, then here we go and we see, so they see that Eldora's vehicle is passed. Then this cop car decides that it's going to then make its way to leave. Okay. And here it is. And do you see it? You see the writing on the side of the vehicle? See right there? That is none other than a police vehicle. Debate me on that. And so I have a cop in the back alley during the time of the crime or right afterwards, you know, protecting that area. And then it leaves out and goes and speeds away. Fucking sick. So take that, Idaho wives of cops that are going crazy on social media right now saying that I don't even know what. I am giving you legit discovery criminal from the criminal defense discovery and the criminal prosecution discovery because it's one and the same. This stuff was handed over to Jennifer Drake, a alleged witness slash, I think she would be considered a suspect, but whatever you want to call her, citizen. You don't go and give away your criminal discovery to citizens. So there you have it. And I've put more than like 1,900 hours into this case. And I can prove that the cops were there waiting, and that's none other than the police assistant chief's vehicle, or there's only one other person that could belong to. And so it's going to come down to who's going to rat out who, because there's only two of them, two vehicles. Everything else is SUVs. This is exculpatory. This is exculpatory that was in discovery. All right. So going back to the Canton case, right? If they would have done anything and in getting any videos like they were supposed to, like they knew to go and get and do, how is there no Ring camera footage from the guy that gave the red Solo cups across the street? Thank you, WB. Appreciate that. Woohoo! Shake it, baby. Boom, boom. You know, what are these people doing, right? They know what to do. They know what to do. They're not doing it. Or they're doing it and then burying it. Like we didn't do it, you know? And we're not going to turn it over. So more news to drop here in, I'm going to play a couple clips here. Karen Reed's defense not stopping. Okay. Not stopping. And there's more in the latest. Let's play it. So the defense files more. I'm going to play this clip first and then show you guys from a different perspective.
Hold its first select board meeting since the Karen Reed case ended. This is a live look from the meeting just about to get underway. The judge in the trial last week declared a mistrial, and that case has divided the town in the past, and these meetings have been contentious. We'll keep an eye on tonight's meeting and bring you any developments. But meanwhile, legal experts continue to weigh in after yesterday's bombshell revelations.
Reed's lawyers say they had unsolicited information from inside the jury room. And now the role of the lead investigator in the case is up in the air.
NBC 10's Eli Rosenberg live outside the courthouse in Dedham with new reaction. Eli.
Well, JC, Karen Reed's 9-week trial, once thought to bring a conclusion to everything, now appears to be just a starting point. We talked to some legal experts today, including a retired judge, and they tell us this possible jury issue has to be figured out before any potential second trial. From charges to a trial to a mistrial to now jury intrigue. The Karen Reed case showing no signs of reaching a definitive conclusion anytime soon.
In a case that's been crazy, this is about the craziest thing you can imagine.
This a day after Reed's lawyers filed a motion saying they received unsolicited information that the deadlocked jury that led to a mistrial may not have been as deadlocked as previously thought. With reports, the jury did agree that Reed was not guilty on 2 of the 3 charges. That, though, not made public.
I'm declaring a mistrial in this case.
Before the judge in the case ruled a mistrial.
That's something that I've never heard before and expect I'll never hear again. It's that unprecedented.
And while both sides are set to talk about that second trial during a hearing on July 22nd, retired Judge Jack Lew says this jury issue must be sorted out first.
Or the judge might schedule an evidentiary hearings where
That's what's going to happen.
Come in and are called as witnesses.
Okay, so perfect. I believe that this can be, this requires an evidentiary hearing, but wouldn't the judge become a witness because she conducted a post-juror meeting? She talked to all the jurors, right? And is there going to be any dispute over what was said? Okay. It came out that she never polled them, never nothing, blah, blah, blah. I went back and looked at some stuff, and did Alan Jackson truly or Yannetti have a chance to be heard from before Bev just calls the jury in and says, I'm declaring a mistrial? Because remember before, when there was a jury note, okay, Mr. Lally, what do you have to say? And then, hey, Mr. Jackson, what do you have to say? Was anybody able to be heard? And did she read all of those letters verbatim, right? Because they put in their motion that they never saw the letters. They never saw, the defense was never provided, here, this is actually what the juror said, Nancy, woo-wee. Hey, Lana. Hey, Nancy. It's your birthday. So should an evidentiary hearing happen? Does Judge Bev become a witness? That's what I want to know. Can Judge Bev become a witness? And she most certainly can. I did my research and I stand by it. Judge Bev can become a witness because she conducted she talked to the jurors and she read off, obviously, the note, and it's being debated right now if the defense had time to say anything, right?
Or the judge might authorize post-verdict interviews by the lawyers and their investigators.
Also up in the air, what role will lead investigator State Trooper Michael Proctor play in any second trial? This after he was suspended without pay yesterday for texts he admitted sending about Reed while investigating the case.
I hate to talk in such extreme.
Okay, so now the question is, why is anybody talking about this? Where is DA on his letter that he put out to the community? And he said that Michael Proctor is, he doesn't know them. He has no relationship with them. Going on to defend Trooper Michael Proctor. The district attorney was defending back in August of 2023, released a letter, right? Well, come on down, DA, right? We have some issues with that because that would tell me if you're putting out a letter like that you have conducted some type of interview with the man, talk to Tully, talk to who for you to be saying this crap. Because he lied to the citizens, right? How is he going to say that he didn't know anything like this? How is he going to sit there and say that? When is the DA going to be held accountable for what he told the public in August of 2023? There is a protest today at Morrissey's office. There should be. Thank you. There should be. Fourth juror just came forward. They're all going to start coming forward. Okay? Those jurors were intimidated by the people that Paul O'Keefe invited into that courtroom to sit behind him during closing arguments. That's what we're going to start hearing about. You want to talk about witness intimidation? That's jury intimidation. You guys want to talk about Turtle Boy and all this bullshit that he's endured because of these little crybaby liars? Those jurors didn't want any part. You know what I mean? Like, they're just doing their job. Like, I hate to say like their job. It's their duty as a citizen. Okay. Fuck saying it's their job. Right. And the audacity that Paul O'Keefe had inviting trial witnesses, okay, to sit in the family section of, everybody knew that that was the family section for the O'Keefes. And then if they didn't know it, he came out and said that I invited these people who were seriously being considered by the jury. Do we deem them credible or not credible? Do we deem them as having something to do with John O'Keefe's demise, right? And here, Paul O'Keefe is like, well, here, I'm going to help that out by inviting these people to sit behind my family and with my family, right? Fuck saying like even behind, with my family, because I invited them. And now, holy shit, I'm sorry, I'd have a huge problem with that if I was a juror after I would have heard that interview when he's saying that he invited them. Like, are you kidding me? And then they're just literally staring down the jurors for what would have been 3 hours. An hour for Lally, an hour for Jackson, and then an hour for good old Bev to confuse the fuck out of them in jury instructions. Woohoo! Talk about a day, 3 hours of juror intimidation. Okay. Like, I wouldn't even be thinking about that. I need to have just, hey, let me make sure we call the Alberts and let's invite Jen, let's invite Carrie, let's invite Brian, and let's invite Colin. I mean, the people that called your brother the get off my lawn guy.
Language, but it's hard to deny that this is an extraordinary case.
Extraordinary. Why?
And tonight we are hearing from the Police Association.
This should be think about it. How is this case extraordinary? If this was anybody but a law enforcement family where John O'Keefe's body was at, how would this be extraordinary? It wouldn't. That's the answer. It wouldn't. So it becomes extraordinary because what? You have law enforcement involved in the investigation, but who didn't investigate the law enforcement officer where the body of John O'Keefe was at. And then you're confusing the jurors because now you testified at a hearing before, right? It was a grand jury, right? But one that I wasn't at, right? And one that Lally wasn't, because they had to be creative on how they were trying to get it to the jurors. Like, that's why I want to interview a juror. Hey, did any of you guys ever ask yourselves when you're sitting there, wait, how many grand juries were there? Did you guys ever say to yourself there was a federal grand jury? Why was there one? Like, was anybody understanding that? You know what I'm saying? Like, think about this. Like, Bev put so many constraints on the way that Karen Reed could be defended that it ultimately made this case a confusing mess. Okay. So
union representing Trooper Michael Proctor, they tell us they are disappointed in the move to suspend him without pay, adding they believe they have not received any information indicating those texts were the sole reason for the suspension. So that's where it stands right now.
Ooh, let's get that. That's really good right there. So people are speaking in, listen to this.
Any information indicating those texts were the sole reason. And tonight we are hearing from the Police Association, the union representing Trooper Michael Proctor. They tell us they are disappointed in the move to suspend him without pay, adding they believe they have not received any information indicating those texts were the sole reason for the suspension. So that's where it stands right now from their vantage point. Meanwhile, we also are hearing from the DA's office, and they tell us they are going to have a response to those motions filed on Monday. Those could be filed as early as tomorrow. The next hearing in all of this is scheduled right now for July 22nd.
Okay, so remember when I told you guys what could all be heard at July 22nd's date? I think a lot more is going to be on the table of what's going to be talked about July 22nd, which is going to be interesting because Little and Alan Jackson have a hearing where they're in court in LA. Okay. And so what was just going to be a status conference over selecting a second trial date, this has now turned into what could be heard and discussed having to do with all of this stuff. So it's woo-wee. So far, we have not heard anything from the DA filing anything back yet, and the judge making anything. So let's get the Trooper Proctor testified on June 11th and 12th, I believe. I could tell you the days of the trial more than the dates because I have everything by the days. Trooper Proctor did the 22nd and the 23rd in terms of days, like day 22nd, day 23rd. Let's take a look one more time. Filed July 10th. Okay, filed July 10th. I, Alan Jackson, declare the following. On Monday, July 8th, 2024, I was contacted by Juror D. Okay. True name and identity withheld. Based on my conversation with Juror D and that juror's description of who he or she is, where he or she was seated, and certain identifying information, name and occupation disclosed during the voir dire process, I was able to positively identify Juror D as a sitting juror in the trial of this matter, including Juror D's seat position. Juror D told me that he or she decided to reach out to me because he or she was uncomfortable, in quotes, uncomfortable with how the trial ended. He/she said that the last day of the trial was a whirlwind and everything happened fast. He/she recounted that his/her perspective was that the jury was brought into the courtroom, the note was read, the mistrial was declared, and the jury was then rushed out of the courtroom. Following a brief meeting with the judge, the next thing they all knew, the jury was on a bus. He/she described the end of the trial as very confusing. Juror D said that it was very troubling that the entire case ended without the jury being asked about each count, especially count 1 and count 3. Juror D explained that the jury reached not guilty verdicts on count 1 and count 3, and that the disagreement was solely as to count 2 and its lesser offenses. So it was count 2 and the lesser offenses of count 2. Okay. And I believe that has everything to do with strictly a DUI, in my opinion. This is just my opinion by me reading. Okay, my opinion. Juror D said that the jury actually discussed telling the judge that they had agreed. Remember I said this the other day? I said, I have a question. There's no way that the jury wouldn't have said something like, hey, is this like an all or nothing thing? Or are, if we've come to a unanimous on, any one of these counts, are we able to say that we've done that? Like, can you guide us in that? So this part's interesting for me right here. This part is that Juror D said that the jury actually discussed telling the judge that they had agreed unanimously on not guilty verdicts for count 1 and 3, but they were not sure if they were allowed to say that. So my question is why didn't they ask? They were asking, why wouldn't somebody in that room be like, well, why don't we ask is this an all or nothing thing? Like, don't you think that would have been something that would have been said in that jury deliberating room? Hey, since we've agreed on count 1 and count 3, let's write a letter and asking, if we're just hung on one of the counts, do you want us to tell you that? Because I think it should have been made known that we're not at an impasse on everything. I think that was their job to do. So the jury believed that they were compelled to come to a resolution on all counts before they could or should report verdicts on any of the counts. Oh my God, that would be jury instructions. Holy shit. This is going to be an amazing evidentiary hearing. Because whether it goes down to an evidentiary hearing or these jurors are questioned by the lawyers, holy shit, this is going to rock if you love law. Again, the jury believed that they were compelled to come to a resolution on all counts before they could or should report verdicts on any of the counts. After discussion, the jury decided to inform the court that they were deadlocked and they expected they would get further instruction about the remaining decided counts thereafter. Juror D explained that he or she was confused and upset that such further instructions never came. Juror D explained that after the jury was excused and aboard the bus, many of the jurors appeared uncomfortable with how things ended, wondering, is anyone going to know that we acquitted Karen Reed on count 1 and 3? No one ever asked about those counts. Juror D stated that once the case was over, he/she remained very uncomfortable with the result. He/she reiterated, it did not feel right. He/she said that part of his or her discomfort was that he/she knew that the jury had reached verdicts on 2 counts and Karen Reed might be retried on those 2 counts and said, that's just not right. I inquired whether, in his/her opinion, other jurors would agree and acknowledge that not guilty verdicts were reached on count 1 and count 3. Juror D said, without hesitation, said in substance, every one of us will agree and acknowledge that we found Karen Reed not guilty of counts 1 and 3 because that's what happened. Juror D reiterated that he/she believes that it would be unjust for Karen Reed to be retried on either count 1, second-degree murder, or count 3, leaving the scene with injury/death, because the jury has already unanimously found her not guilty of those charges. Juror D further stated that if necessary, he/she would agree to testify in order to explain to the court that the jury unanimously reached not guilty verdicts on count 1 and count 3, as long as he/she identity remained protected. Holy shit, these people are scared. Fuck you, Canton. Fuck you, Paul. Fuck you all. This is bullshit, okay? This person wants to remain anonymous. I will testify. I will honor the penalties of perjury. But guess what? All of us in that jury room said, Karen Reed, I want to know how soon they came to that conclusion. Let me tell you guys something. I think that conclusion came so quickly that they were then, if we think about how much time then they were talking about just that second count, and the lessers and everything like that. I think they came to the conclusion on counts 1 and 3 very, very quickly. And that would mean that they did exhaust themselves just solely spending all of that time on count 2. I said it and I'll repeat it because I've been saying it, that did this jury, were they under the impression, okay, that they had to, it was all or nothing. Like they had to come to the conclusion of a verdict on all the counts. Okay. Which anybody that has ever watched a trial, you guys hear when they read off, okay, have you guys reached a decision on this? Yes, we have, Your Honor. Okay. the defendant is not guilty of count 1, not guilty, guilty on count 3, guilty on count 4, not guilty on count 5, not guilty on count 6, and then the jury was unable to come to a unanimous decision either way on counts 7, 8, 9, whatever. Anybody that's watched a trial has heard that in that form. This would tell me, did Judge Bev read the jury notes verbatim, especially the last one that was not shared? Because I don't know why you wouldn't ask. They were not sure if hey, we've reached not guilty. Why couldn't they just say, we've reached a verdict? I wouldn't be disclosing what the verdict was, but I would be saying, because, hey, we don't want to let anybody know anything, right? So let's just tell Bev, we've reached a verdict on count 1 and count 3. Or you can even just say, we've reached verdicts unanimously on some of the counts. But one of the count, we haven't. This way you're not disclosing what it is or if it's not guilty or guilty. What these people seem very educated. They truly do. And I don't understand why that question wouldn't have been asked. Like, if someone's saying, well, we didn't know if we could do that or not. Well, the only way you can find out that or not is, are we allowed to ask you a question about the counts? But I think what really kind of set them in a path of, oh God, we're afraid to ask anything, is the way that it was answered when they asked about the cert report. It was, you have all the evidence in this case, that's all you're going to get. Right? Because I don't understand why I'd be raising my hand saying, guys, why aren't we just asking if, like, we're not deadlocked on all the counts. So why would we be lying to the courts by saying that we're deadlocked? We're not deadlocked. We have come to a conclusion unanimously on 2 out of the 3 counts, and one of the counts we are deadlocked on. So why wouldn't we be disclosing that and saying, is that acceptable? Or this just blows my mind that nobody would think to write this and say this. But hearing what Juror 4 is saying, when we were brought in, we were expected, like, the foreman was prepared. That's what, okay, if they asked us any questions, like, okay, you guys are still at an impasse, right? Did you guys come to a conclusion on any of the counts? Are you just at an impasse on one of them, 2 of them, 3 of them? Because then you have to, I'm putting myself in the shoes of, like, the jurors and saying, okay, guys, why wouldn't you ask that question? All right. Or where were the jury instructions compelling you that you had to do all or nothing, or that, not to say anything until you, whatever it was. I want to know where you saw that in the writing, but then I have to put myself in Bev's position, and why wouldn't Bev say and ask the questions of, okay, your exhaustive measures, your impasse, does that pertain to all the counts? Is there any count? So if you put yourself in both shoes, you have to ask, it works both ways. Why wouldn't Bev ask anything? Alan Jackson had to fight about getting, the not guilty line added. So how about we do this? I want to take a look at, you guys can leave if you would like, but I want to take a look at going back to the last day and hearing that letter. Because I don't know if Bev read it in its entirety, if she read it completely. Because I'm like, why are they talking about their morals? Why are they talking about their morals? Carly, as far as that Brian Drake case goes, your best guess is the assistant chief in cahoots with the widow, and has there been any connection between the two? I will tell you that the assistant police chief's wife worked at the coffee shop next door, and she's a really good-looking blonde. Brian Drake likes blondes with nice racks, and she fits the bill. Brian Drake would go over to that coffee shop. I believe he was over there that day. So if Brian Drake was trying to get fresh with the assistant police chief's wife, that'd be a problem, right? Also, what Jennifer Drake wanted to go into business with, which was storage units. Marty Ryan, the assistant police chief, his side thing, he had storage units. So very interesting. Marty Ryan got the hell out of Dodge after the Brian Drake, kind of like murder and fuckerage with everything. And they're living in, I believe it's Virginia. Marty Ryan spent time in Montana. That's where Jennifer Drake is from. And Marty Ryan spent time in through Coeur d'Alene with the Special Task Force and the lead detective from ISP in that case. So also Marty Ryan kept his distance from Jen Drake during the investigation, but managed to call her cell phone the night of the murder at 9:06 to tell her not to come down, and her husband was dead. Normally, a assistant police chief isn't going to call somebody on the phone and tell them that somebody's dead. That's not usually the way that you do that. And then when they did, says, well, there's, why don't you just go ahead and turn around and head on back home. So that's what I think about that. Massachusetts says beyond a reasonable doubt and with the moral certainty. Yeah. And that's why if you're morally conflicted, right? Then that would tell me that it wasn't proven if you're morally conflicted, and that would be not guilty. But then you're morally conflicted to vote not guilty because of your moral conflictions, right? So think about that. So basically, you don't want to commit crimes in Massachusetts, because if anybody on the jury doesn't think that the Commonwealth proved their case, but they have a moral confliction with finding you not guilty, they can, because they can say that we have a moral confliction. We morally can't find you not guilty, even though the Commonwealth didn't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Think about how fucked up that is. God. Amber, thank you. No reason to spam the chat. We got it. We got it, honey. Oh, shit. Now, what type of, where does Chloe play in? Okay. Where does Chloe play into all of this? Meaning, can we find Chloe? Is Chloe alive? Who has Chloe? The person that, this is so now mainstream media, right? Who has Chloe? Are they willing? I mean, where's Chloe? Can Chloe be a witness based on Chloe's bite? Chloe, we're going to bring your ass on in here. We want you to start biting stuff. Yeah, Amber, we talked about that, about the about law enforcement, but it's not. It has to go with, did they prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt? And the answer to that is no. So, but you're morally conflicted because of what then? To me, that means that when you answered your juror questions in the beginning, you should have never taken on the case if you can't, and they were asked if there's, do you have an issue with law enforcement? Are you know, that those are the type of people that shouldn't be on the case as a juror. So, God, they're going through all the jury voir dire right now, and they're looking at everybody's answer. Ooh. Little is really busy right now going through all of those questions and seeing what the answers were by everybody that made it, you know. Oh, Sarah, no, I won't eat you alive. I'm just hoping so. So don't eat me alive. Haha. No. Did you see a fourth juror came forward about not guilty verdicts? Yep, just read it, honey. Just read it, honey. I read Alan Jackson's affidavit. And it's very, I think the most telling part, let's see, is that they're really honing in on the fact that it was just a shit show. We were so confused. Like, we were figured that we'd be asked, okay, were you able to come to a decision on count one? We have, Your Honor. Were you, you know, so what was the jury supposed to do? Kind of say, go tell Judge Bev Canone we've reached a verdict. Go tell Judge Bev Canone we've reached a verdict in 2 out of the 3 counts and what she would like us to do because we're still at an impasse on one of them. Why wouldn't that be the note that was written to Judge Bev Canone? Literally 2 sentences. Tell Judge Bev Canone we've reached a verdict in 2 out of the 3 counts, and we are still at an impasse on one of the counts. What would, even after the Tui Rodriguez, what would she like us to do? This is why no question is a stupid question. This is like definition, highlighting it bold. Like, please let your kids ask any question in school. If a teacher like is intimidating your kid not to ask questions, but there is no stupid question. It's something that, especially something that a teacher is teaching over and over multiple times during that day, you then can easily not tell one of the classes something because you think that you've already said it because you've said it 10 times, you know? That's how I feel when I'm doing, if I talk to people about my live before I'm doing my live or what I'm about to discuss, I may not say something because I feel like I've already said it, right? That's why I don't discuss anything that I talk about that I'm going to talk about on a live or a pre-record because I want to make sure that I don't miss, saying that information because my brain thinks I've already told you guys, but no, here I just told a bunch of other people because I'm having conversations about it. And hey, that just might be the way that my brain works, but it's like when your friends are like, oh, I didn't tell you about so-and-so. And then they're like, no, you didn't tell me about that. And then you're like, oh, I must have told, Sarah that. Oops, my bad. I thought you knew. Yeah. So da-da-da, So this, so actually being a YouTuber or anybody that's reporting on news, you actually have, I'm printing something off for you guys. You actually want to take notes after the fact or to make sure that you got everything that you wanted to say out. And if anything didn't, Yes, Mary P. Truth, Lana. That's why teachers work off a lesson plan to make sure they don't miss it. Yeah. And then you're supposed to check it. But like in 2nd grade, when you're teaching the kids, that's why I kind of like it when, your 2nd grade teacher is like your math teacher. She's your social studies teacher, so she's getting to talk about something different. Now, when you get into 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, your history teacher, right? They're teaching 17 classes, 6 classes, right, for the day. It's the same lesson. So I'll put it up here so you guys can see it now on Hector the projector. it's noon. Hear that siren? Lets us all know that make sure you eat. Don't forget to eat. Again, this was just filed today, July 10th. So, is Dr. Moore currently in jail or out on bond? Dr. Moore has the best investigator and researcher in the game. Oh, that wasn't the question. Is Dr. Moore currently in jail or out on bond? Dr. Moore there's a huge trial coming up in January against Jennifer Drake. She did a wrongful death. There was no criminal case that went forward because they withdrew their charges against Dr. Moore, or / they were dismissed because they didn't have anything other than a false confession that was thrown out because they violated his Miranda. And but Jennifer Drake, prior to any of that, within 2 months of Dr. Moore being arrested for the murder in November of 2020, she filed a wrongful death suit, and it was stayed for a long period of time. And then Dr. Moore's lawyer, who made the biggest blunder in the blunders of blunders, did a non-objection to the stay being lifted, and going forward with a civil suit that actually the case was dismissed without prejudice. Okay, meaning that murder charge is hanging over your head for the rest of your life. And in the stay, it said that this could not go forward until everything to do with the criminal proceeding was over. And charges being dismissed without prejudice is not over. Far from it. And it's murder. There's no statute of limitations. So, with that said, it's a wrongful death, huge trial that's coming up, and it's going to act like a mini criminal case because it never went to trial. So I think it's hilarious that Jennifer Drake would file 2 months after the arrest of Dr. Moore and not waiting, like, here, I'm filing. And so it got stayed, and the stay was lifted. Again, a huge blunder by a lawyer. And so now we have a wrongful death suit where Jennifer Drake is trying to get paid, compensated financially, punitive damages and shit like that. And I'm over here saying, oh, hell to the no. We're not letting that happen, because he just didn't kill anybody. And yeah. So take a look at this. Juror D told me that he/C decided to reach out to me because he/C was uncomfortable with how the trial ended. Uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. It's kind of like getting a lap dance from your sister. Uncomfortable like that. Civil suit. We have all the info because Jennifer is so greedy. Jennifer's so stupid. What's even crazier is that here's a murder case that has never gone to trial, right? And the Idaho State Police just hand Jennifer Drake a criminal discovery so that she can pursue her little civil case. And it's just like, wait, no, I've never, excuse me, who just hands somebody over their discovery? Greed. Jennifer Drake has a Facebook page, and in that Facebook group page, she wrote some damning shit. She basically tried to run out the Moores out of that town and make it so that people would not go see Dr. Moore at his practice. And you know that that's a violation of our civil rights, right? We have the right to conduct business without business interference. And I believe that Jennifer Drake committed that interference. I also think that she defamed a lot of people, because the exact definition of defaming somebody is that if you say something that you know is not true, if you have personal knowledge of something that you know is not true and you speak the opposite way, knowing that it's false, that what you're saying, that is the exact definition of defamation. And so if Jennifer Drake knows that the shot that killed her husband didn't come from outside that window to then in through, and in fact, it was a shot that was taken inside, and it was taken after the fact to stage the crime scene that she somehow knew about being 2 hours away, right? Think about that. So how is your little storyline that says that Dr. Moore did this and he shot through a window and killed your husband that way? Her going out and telling people that when she knows it to not be true because she knows the shot didn't come from outside that window, right? That's defamation. That is the exact definition of defamation. You know something that's not true, and you're saying it anyways. But what she's about to do is she's going to try to hide behind the police. And she's going to go in and say that the police gave her all of this. The reason that she thinks Dan Moore did it, and she told the world Dan Moore did it, and we know who did it, we just are looking for more evidence. That's what she did at a press conference and wanted. Little did she know that I would happen to see that and say, okay, I wanted to help her. I wanted to help the woman because I believed that her husband was murdered, and I didn't believe that Dan Moore did it. And I wanted to help both parties, actually. Like, here, I think you're looking in the wrong area, Miss Drake. I think you need to look over here, you know? But little did I know what I would be finding out through all of this. Because Jennifer Drake sued the Moores, and the Moores countered. And in that counterclaim, holy shit, what was put in that counterclaim. And the Moores didn't write up that counter. Their lawyer did all that. All right. It's like anything. They had a lawyer. They didn't do this pro se. So, and the stuff that was shot out in both of these claims were effing wild. Like, I couldn't believe that the Moore's attorney was actually writing the shit that she wrote in a complaint. I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. I did a report on it. I put it out there. If you guys need to be reminded of it, I will. But you guys, that trial, that 2-week trial that's going to happen in January of 2025, come right here. You're going to watch that trial. That trial has public interest. That trial should and will be taped and should be, streamed out to everybody. And the reason it should hold public interest is because Jennifer Drake said that Bonner's Ferry deserves justice, just like Brian deserves justice. And so that would make Bonner's Ferry have an interest in this case that will go through evidence from the criminal discovery. Okay. And if Idaho tries to keep cameras out of that courtroom, they're going to be faced with hella questions, because this 100% has total more public. The public interest would supersede Jennifer Drake's interest to possibly keep a affair that happened with her husband hush hush. It's not going to trump the public interest. And at the own words of Jennifer Drake, when she went and did a press conference, a little one or a little interview or whatever she wants to call it, she said that Bonner's Ferry deserves like the interest of the people, and that it's not just Brian Drake getting justice, it's Bonner's Ferry getting justice. So she put it in her own words should make it all. That should trump it all. But it's like, again, where's mainstream media? Like, why aren't they talking about this case? And they don't want to talk about this case because they know what it will lead to. It'll lead to them having to discuss corruption and or inept police in law enforcement and in powerful positions, period. Jen Drake said things in public that are proven to be lies, i.e. saying she was home on couch with kid at the time Brian Drake was killed and so much more. Yeah. And that Brian Drake told her that he was shot through a window. That's a fucking lie. Brian Drake was not shot through any fucking window. So why would Brian Drake say that to you? Also, you said that you called 911 with your cell phone and you didn't. I mean, that's a lie. And nobody wants to do anything about it. So 2025, oh yeah, plenty of time to catch up. Yeah, it's easy. It's easy. And I'm telling you guys, it's juicy. It's a juicy ass case because it has it all. So juicy. Ooh. And I'm telling you, man, Jen Drake is going to try to give an Emmy performance on that stand in January of 2025. Like, woo. But she doesn't know what's coming on that cross. And I ain't talking about Jesus Christ cross, okay? Woo! Can you imagine? Can you imagine right now if Kaylee Gonsalves' dad had the criminal discovery? That's like what it, he would love to have that discovery. But she's saying that the police, basically what the police have told her is why she believes that Dan Moore, everything that she says about Dan Moore. So she's going to hide behind the police as to why she's saying what she's saying. It's because the police have said this to me. And then the police did what? They then provided you with information to do what with? You should hear her. You should hear her on what she thinks is about to happen. So Juror 4 felt uncomfortable with how the trial ended. Going back to Karen Reed, he said, we're just going to call him a he. Okay. He said that the last day of the trial was a whirlwind and everything happened fast. So I want to go back and think about that because we over here don't think that anything happened fast, right? He recounted that his perspective was that the jury was brought into the courtroom. The note was read. And now this is a really important part. He was brought into the courtroom. The note was read. And then Bev declared a mistrial. And the reason Alan Jackson has to talk about that is because that's showing that Alan Jackson, nor Yannetti, nor Little, or anybody from their team had an opportunity to say anything because she read it. And then Bev, she was just in her dead mid-sentence to say, I'm declaring this trial a mistrial. Okay. So it's really, he really needs to hammer this home because they're going to fight back and say that he had most certainly had an opportunity and it would have been before the jury was called in. I'm telling you that's what's coming. So he needed to lay that. Then following the brief meeting with the judge, the next thing they all knew, the jury was on a bus. I want to know what this meeting was all about. He said it was very brief, probably saying thank you. She was just probably thanking them. Thank you guys so much. I understand this probably wasn't but if she slipped up in any way, shape, or form, but she said that she didn't pull them, but I don't think she did slip up because she knew what she was doing. Now, my question is who could hear, where were they deliberating? Who could hear what they were saying? And did they want this to be, in fact, a mistrial and not get these other counts out on the record? And so they quickly went to that because they had knowledge of this 2 count already, not guilties. So that's in the back of my mind, because think about it. What if they were guilties and they knew about it? Don't you think they would have pulled, like, that would have come out? Then Juror 4 says, who they're calling Juror D, said that it was very troubling that the entire case ended without the jury being asked about each count. So this juror was under the guise or belief, or led to believe that, hey, we're going to be asked, hey, were you able to come to a finding in count 1? Were you able to come? Were you able to come to anything on count 1, count 2, count 3? So this juror was under, like, wait a second, why aren't we being asked? Juror D explained that the jury reached not guilty verdicts. Okay, so everything that's been said to this point by the other jurors is now being confirmed by juror D, fourth one coming forward. Is there a fourth juror now? This is the fourth juror. This is the affidavit that was just put in by Alan Jackson today at 10 o'clock in the morning. So yes, there is a fourth juror. It's juror D, and this is the affidavit. This is the affidavit. So this is the new juror, and the new juror has a lot of juice. I think this is juicy because it's going to show the confusion that basically Bev. Oh, you're good, Kenzie. You're good. Yep. You can catch up because I'm basically repeating it, but I'm showing you guys it because last I just read it. So this, for those of you guys like to see it. Juror D explained that the jury reached not guilty on counts 1 and 3, again confirming everything that's said before leading up to this day, and that the disagreement was solely as to count 2 and its lesser, but it says and its lesser offenses. So pull up count 2, and when you do, it's saying this and word, which is really important that they teach you when you're taking the SATs and the ACTs. You pay attention to keywords like and or. It's saying count 2 and its lesser offenses from the count 2. So when people want to just say like it's everything that we thought it was. Count 2 is a shit show, right? Juror D said, so Juror D said that the jury actually discussed telling the judge that they had agreed unanimously on not guilty verdicts for count 1 and 3, but they were not sure if they were allowed to say no. Or say so. Like, are we allowed to let her know this? So this is where my only question comes into is that, okay, and if you're not sure, then, and you're allowed to ask questions, then why wasn't there a question posed? Right? We didn't know if we could do this. So that's my hang up with the jurors. Like, why aren't you just writing her? Number 7 is the jury believed that they were compelled to come to a resolution on all counts before they could or should report verdicts on any of the accounts. So that's why I still go to the question. Okay, that's great. We're not going to tell her that what our verdicts are, but we're going to say, hey, we're going to ask that. But right here, this juror saying that they believed, and they're using the word they, the jury believed, they, not like I just thought this, but the jury had discussed it. Then they're going to say they by juror D saying this, but that the jury believed that they were compelled. Okay, this was like what they all thought. They were not allowed to say so, but that they were compelled. After discussing, so they had a discussion, the jury decided to inform the court that they were deadlocked and they expected they would get further instructions about the remaining decided counts thereafter. So if we go back to the note, remember how the note said, the note clearly did say that it wasn't on all of them. Again, remember, this is Alan Jackson's affidavit. So this is not what the juror wrote up, but Alan Jackson is writing an affidavit because Alan Jackson in an affidavit, so this is under the penalty of perjury, okay, sworn affidavit, which is jail time if you lie in an affidavit. So he's writing everything as whether this was said to him, whether it was emailed to him, whether they have texting exchanges. So these are Alan Jackson's words. So, it's normal to get the name sealed. So that should say sealed there. It should be like that because it was a mistrial. So going and finding exactly that letter that was read. Bev is the manager of the jury. She mismanaged this jury. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, she did. But I want to know, there had to be somebody sitting outside that jury deliberating room, right? There had to be like a bailiff or somebody involved in law enforcement or the courthouse, right? You're not just going to leave the jury in a room with nobody protecting this room or making sure that people just don't go in there, right? Hi, oh, this is good. I'm listening as best I can, but I'm going to have to rewatch later. I hate being busy. What up, Mod Squad? Hopefully you're doing well. I'll give her a shake. Happy hump day. You guys, this is wild. This is wild. You guys, this case is a shit show. This case is a complete shit show. Is there a copy of the final verdict form available anywhere? I can only find the contest one that Bev wanted to die on before she agreed to modify it. We're trying to get our hands on not only that, I'm going back and trying to find exactly when that letter was read off. Is the jury allowed to have their phones during deliberation? I would guess no. What about smartwatches? I don't. Let's see. Is the FBI tapping jurors' phones now? No. That's part of the judicial system, it is really important that you do keep jurors, they want to be kept anonymous. Well, they have that right. Okay. Continuing on. Juror D explained that he or she was confused and upset that such further instructions never came. Juror D explained that after the jury was excused and aboard the bus, many of the jurors appeared uncomfortable with how things ended, wondering, is anyone going to know that we acquitted Karen Reed on count 1 and 3? No one ever asked about those counts. Well, no one ever asked about any of the counts. It wasn't just those counts. They weren't, Okay, so I was talking to Bella about this and I said, I think that there should be a black box that's in every jury deliberating room and that black box can only be, got into in situations like this, but it's 2024. Why wouldn't we have such a way to, Cindy says, Lana, I found your channel through Sean M. You really have a clear and precise way of explaining cases. What is your background? You could be a consultant on cases. It's funny. I'm actually consulting on one right now. My background is business and criminal justice. So No, Karen, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a pro se lawyer. I just defend myself. You like that, Karen? Can you imagine how many are in jail that shouldn't be because jury for fuck? Well, in Massachusetts, when you get to bring in your morals, I mean, hey, they didn't prove their case, but I cannot vote not guilty for this person because I morally can't do it. I don't know how, like, I think that that's morally corrupt within yourself to think that you can just, I don't know. That doesn't seem like it's moral. Because then you should have never been a juror to begin with, because then you couldn't, like, this case had some hold on you based off of the type of people that were involved, where your morals would be so, your values and your standards and your morals, it has to do with how you were raised, your morals, right? Principles. Thanks, Karen. Hopefully you never have to do that, though. We don't ever want to be on the opposite side. Mod Squad making people turn green. Thank you for getting those 5 memberships, Madi. Woohoo! I hate when you're so busy. Canton makes me trust absolutely no one, says Sherry D. There's my girl. Sherry, baby, Sherry. 5 memberships. Everybody's going green. Lana, Loco Sarah Boone. I wouldn't touch that. I mean, I don't. She's pro se now. How you like me now? You guys, do you think any jurors going to come forward and say, hey, I'm juror E, and I'm over here with the Lally smoking, ripping butts, and wondering why juror A, B, C, and D have amnesia, and none of that shit went on. Like, right? Is anybody going to come forward and say, I don't know what the hell these jurors are talking about, but, you know, did they just leave the verdict form blank? Well, it didn't come to that. It came to, they just told her that they were that's why I need to go back to the last day when she read the letter. That letter is everything. I'm going to go to it. Let me get through this, though. My pleasure. I don't think anyone will go Team Lally. They didn't fill out, from my understanding, they didn't fill anything out. It was like we told Bev that we were at this impasse, and they were assuming, this is why you never assume, because then you make an ass out of you and me, but they were assuming that Bev was going to question them about saying, okay, you guys were at an impasse. Well, did you guys come to a conclusion on count 1? Did you guys come to a conclusion on count 2? Are you at an impasse across the board? Like, they were expecting that. And it was like, they read her question. Bev read the jury's question and then said, all right, I'm declaring this case and trial a mistrial, and I'm not going to make you guys do that. I'm not going to make you guys go against your morals, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And she said that I'm declaring this case in this trial a mistrial, and your services, I'm saying that your services are complete, that you've completed your duties as citizens. Okay. And so can you imagine, like, well, wait a second. We didn't tell you anything because we were told not to. But then because we didn't tell you that we've reached a verdict on count 1 and count 3, you just never asked us. We said that we were at an impasse on one of the charges. Was that not clear? Like, that's what so then they get all rushed out of the courtroom. They're in the jury deliberating room back again, waiting to get back on the bus. And during that time, that's where the people are just like, wait a second. Wait, what? So Juror D stated that once the case was over, he or she remained very uncomfortable, again, just uncomfortable. They reiterated that it didn't feel right. He or she said that part of his or her discomfort was that he or she knew that the jury had reached verdicts on 2 counts, and Karen Reed might be retried on those 2 counts. And that's just not right. So now people's morals are now kicking back in, the same morals that couldn't come to a conclusion on count 2. So now their morals are coming back into play, and that's just not right. That's morally not. I can't just stand by and not say something that, wait a second, we actually did come to a conclusion on 1 and 3. We were never asked, and our impasse was only to count 2, but it was, and it's lesser offenses, the count 2 and it's lesser offenses. And the way that I'm reading that is that we weren't going to be finding her guilty of even manslaughter. So what else was on the table in count 2? Because 1 and 3 are off the table for them. So what part of count 2 were we saying that, okay, yeah, we believe the test results, so we think that she should get a DUI. So was this over a fucking DUI? Was we don't believe, though, that her DUI had anything to do with John O'Keefe dying, though, because clearly they weren't in some car wreck. Okay. And we don't believe that or some of them saying like she hit him, but then other people don't believe that she hit him. And so it's like, and that's where I'm just like, well, if you don't know if she hit him or not, you don't know that because there wasn't enough evidence to compel you to say like, oh my God, yeah, she clearly was hit. And he clearly died because of that. That's where I'm stuck on the whole moral part. How was it the morals that, because that has nothing to do with police officers being complete shitbags. These jurors sound like they are competent, right? Right? She was drinking, they knew it, and couldn't get past that. So when these jurors are questioned in evidentiary hearing or questioned by these lawyers, are they going to question each one of them and say, what do you believe happened? Where were you hung up? Because if they're saying it was 6-6 deadlocked, and then we went back in, and then we got it to be like 8-4 or 6-6 deadlocked on what? 8-4 on what? And it's going to be interesting. Did no one explain to the jurors how lesser and included work? We can go back and listen to Bev talk for an hour about the jury instructions. But then the jury instructions were also typed out in the room, right? I inquired whether so then Alan Jackson, number 10, says, Alan Jackson asked whether, in his or her opinion, other jurors would agree and acknowledge that the not guilty verdicts were reached. Because this is going to be huge about not trying her on those, like retrying her. Juror D, without hesitation, said, in substance, every one of us will agree and acknowledge that we found Karen Reed not guilty of counts 1 and 3 because that's what happened. That's when somebody gives you an answer like that, it is amazing. Like, yes, put us all in a room and yes, because that's exactly what happened. Juror D reiterated that he or she believes that it would be unjust for Karen Reed to be retried on either count 1 or count 3. Because the jury has already unanimously found her not guilty of those charges. And I'm telling you, I think that happened very, very early on, which makes sense as to when they're saying we've exhausted. When you heard that exhausted that was all about number 2. So that means that when they first came back and said that, all of that deliberating was all solely on count 2. Wild. Exactly how we envisioned, though, it would go. Like, this is not guilty, right? This is crazy. And so what it would be is that, yeah, I believe that Karen Reed was drinking that night. And then people are probably in there saying, well, we don't know if she was drunk, though, because that test is just so wild. So is it an option to say, fine, we find Karen Reed guilty of a DUI, but we don't find that Karen Reed's DUI resulted in anything to do with the death of John O'Keefe? Because I think Karen Reed would say, yep, sure, give me a DUI. Right? And now let me ask you this question. What if Lally just decides to save face here and not have to deal with any of this to also save face for Bev? And if he comes in on on July 22nd and says these words, we are only going to retry Karen Reed for manslaughter. And so therefore counts 1 and 3 are off the table anyways, because we're not going to retry her on those. Does that save Bev Canone? And I believe it would, wouldn't it? Because that's exactly what the defense wants, right? They want 1 and 3 dismissed. Well, we weren't even going to be retrying her on those. We were just going to be going for manslaughter anyways. So we actually have no problem with this happening. And now, doesn't that make Lally be a team player, just like how Bev was being a team player with like allowing and not allowing things? So think about that. If Lally comes out the gate and says, well, yes, the state's, the Commonwealth's proceeding to move forward, but we really don't need to talk about the jurors in this situation because we're not going to retry Karen Reed for, count 1 and we're just going to be trying her for manslaughter. Now, doesn't that will silence their next move? Will say it all. That's what I think their next move is going to be. Wouldn't you do that if you were the prosecutor? Wouldn't you say, well, guys, we can't have all of this like go on like in that way? Yeah, thank you. Free FTR. What does FTR stand for? But Judge Bev was very scary and difficult. Put a t-shirt. By the way, you're so funny and smart. Oh, you're so smart and funny. Thank you. I appreciate that. Free the read. Oh, okay. Free the read. For the record? For the record. That's what I say. For the record. Thank you. I should have known that's what that meant. If I was a juror, I would hire an attorney and sue the courts. On what grounds? If I was a juror, I'd sue. I just think that Lally can totally can totally just put the kibosh on all of this and say, well, honestly, we weren't going to be trying. We talked about it, and we want to just move forward with trying Karen Reed for manslaughter. Those are the only counts we're bringing forward. So, wouldn't that negate everything that's going on right now? You guys do not want these jurors talking. They don't want an evidentiary hearing. They don't want people going on the record saying how fucking what a shitbag Bev is. And that we had no idea. It was so confusing. Like over and over and over. Or we were afraid to ask. Or we were scared to ask questions. So I don't know. That's what I would do. I would take the ball out of their court. And I wouldn't let any of those jurors, I would quash this. And I would quash it by saying, well, if we're just only moving forward with the manslaughter, then all these jurors can say, okay, I'm fine with that. And I have nothing to say then, you know? Then there is no evidentiary hearing. There is no nothing. They're moving forward with charging Karen Reed with manslaughter, and you're still appeasing the O'Keefe family, right? And you're keeping anybody from possibly repetitively coming forward, saying on the stand over and over and over through jurors 1 through whoever to talk about what a shitty process this was. And yeah. And now the real question should say, where is trial number 2 going to be had? Because this no way can happen in Norfolk County. Everybody in Norfolk County has had to have heard about this case now. You cannot sit here and say that Karen Reed, whether it's the defense of her or even prosecuting Karen Reed, would possibly, how can you even prosecute and think that you're going to get a fair trial? Who in Norfolk County would not know about this case at this point? And you'd be lying if you said, no, that she can find a fair trial there. She can't. She 100% can't. And nor do I think that they could prosecute a fair trial. Like I think that the prosecution would be at a disadvantage, you know? Jurors are like, we're not contacting anyone but the defense lawyers. Yeah, they're not talking to the media. Gabby and Mara says, I don't think it could be held anywhere in Massachusetts at this point. Now, that would be interesting. Moving it like that. If there's an evidentiary hearing, the defense could call Bev as a witness. If they call Bev as a witness, Bev can't oversee the next trial, right? I think that would conflict her out. But there were still jurors who were firm that the injuries weren't consistent with the car at his death. It wasn't only from his injuries, but yeah, they were so certain about this is 1 and 3 is off the table. 1's off the table, and 3 basically goes with 1, because if you knowingly thought that you killed somebody and you intended to kill somebody, and then you're leaving the scene of the crime, but nobody thought that she knowingly did anything like that. And if she in fact did hit her with her car, or hit him with her car, she didn't know it. And that's why 3's off the table too, is because they don't believe that this was murder. So if you don't know that you hit somebody, you cannot charge them with leaving the scene. I didn't even know that and they believe that if you are even going to say that she hit him, she did not know. Okay. So that's why 3's off. So 1 and 3 are off. And so if I was in the shoes of Lally, I'm saying, hey, I don't want these jurors to be speaking. I want to protect Bev, right? Because Bev's asking for me to protect her. And I would just say that we're moving forward with only count 2, and it would take all of this and just quash it, right? And you could spin it to make it look like that you care about the jurors and what they said and whatever. You could PR spin it. Just like anything. But again, the last part says it all. Is it out of focus? No, looks pretty good. Number 12 says it all, though. Juror D says, A, I will testify if necessary in order to explain to the court that the jury unanimously reached the not guilty verdicts on count 1 and 3, as long as his or her identity remained protected. Wild. I don't want it coming back on me, you know? So the defense proved the car did not hit taillight still intact from ring video. I think what the defense proved was 100% reasonable doubt with the vehicle, and the inverted video should put the exclamation point on it. No prosecutor should ever be needing to use an inverted video, and that I think Alan proved that the inverted video was, it wasn't an accident. Somebody inverted it because the numbers were put on afterwards on the bottom, and those weren't inverted. And so I would have and that Sallyport video is directly connected to the car, right? It's not connected to a DUI. It's connected to the car. And because of that, and their own ME saying that she couldn't rule out what caused like his injuries, what they were caused from. Could it be a fight? Could it be this? Could it be that? Yes, yes, yes. And all of those yeses make it like there's nothing to be morally conflicted on. And the only way that you can find her guilty on count 2 is if you believe that the car did the damage. And I don't know how you could believe that when there's reasonable doubt. And they did it with, if you think about it, they changed their defense. And I don't want to say in the middle of the trial, but the ARCA guys, like those weren't their people, and neither was Russell. So they did it with 6 witnesses, and these jurors just seem so with it that how could they just not come to a not guilty verdict across all counts? That's my struggle. On the simple fact that the Commonwealth didn't prove their case, so it's not guilty. I am so happy that Kevin Albert is suspended. The dominoes are falling. Who's next? The question is, who's next? Who's next? Who's going down next? How'd they keep that so quiet, though? That mofo was put on leave on June 13th, and we just found out about it yesterday. That's people keeping secrets in Canton. That didn't get out. That did not get out. I did not hear one person report that Kevin Albert was on paid suspension. Or, I'm sorry. Yeah, he was suspended with pay during an investigation. Nobody reported that. Just think about that, man. Canton keeps them secrets. They kept that real quiet. Fuck yeah, nobody reported that. That means that they're keeping very, very tight circles. Very, very tight circles. But you know what would have, if somebody would have done a FOIA request to see the pay or to see schedules over a 2-week period, you probably would have had it done 3, because over 2 weeks you could get away with, oh, Kevin Albert was on, he took a vacation. But getting 3 weeks back to back to back, if a FOIA request was put in like that, and to see if Kevin Albert had any scheduled, like if he was working, and then if he would have been out 3 weeks in a row, that's how that could have been found out. But you would have been having Canton give you the schedules of the police department. Ooh, that's my way that's going to come out. I can't believe that Colin Albert, that it's perjury. He committed perjury. He told the courts that he did not fight, was not involved with any fighting, never fought, only fought with his brothers. Lie. And then there's video that comes out. And then Paul would have seen all those videos because he watches Turtle Boy. And that Paul then still invites the kid after knowing that he lied in his brother's case. Like, why you're going to interview Paul? Why wouldn't that question be asked? Hey, Paul, we noticed that Colin Albert was sitting behind you during the closing arguments. You said that you invited them. Well, so do you not believe that Colin Albert lied about fighting? What about the videos that were put out after his testimony where he's clearly having street fights? I want to hear his answer to that. I want to hear his answer. I want to hear him say, because he said that Colin's life was turned upside down and yada, 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 right? A 17-year-old kid's life was, you're ruining innocent people's lives. Well, innocent people don't lie on the stand. I can promise you that. About John O'Keefe was killed because of a car, right? So I could be in a million fistfights. What the hell does that matter? Yeah, sure, I fought. Yeah, sure. This just has for the simple fact too is, have you ever been in a fist fight? No, you've never been in a fist fight. No. You've never gotten in a fight with anybody. No altercations. No. Have you? Well, he's like, nope. With my brothers. I fought with my brothers. Okay. And then boom, Paul O'Keefe listens to that testimony. Then the next day, all the videos drop. Then you decide to invite a kid that lied during your brother's murder trial to sit behind you and to sit with your family. And then you said in an interview that the Alberts were good people. Again, good people don't lie in murder trials. And that you felt bad for this 17-year-old. Because why? Did he remind you of you because he played football? You played football? Tully, didn't you guys play football together? Tully and Paul O'Keefe played football together? Are you fucking kidding me? Get out of here, man. But you have the girl who did the interview literally throwing up softballs, just like floaters. And so I just think that not everything that's going to come out of Paul's bias, like the kid lied on the stand, and you had him. Like, you invited him to sit during the closing arguments of your brother's murder trial, where he lied in the murder trial about fighting, which should have no bearing on the case, because remember, your brother wasn't, how your brother was killed. So why would Colin? Yeah, I've been in 10 fights. I've probably been in 12 fights. Okay. So, like, this trial would still be going on if the defense literally recalled all of these witnesses. It would still be going on. And for these witnesses to be asked about every damn lie that they said during direct examination of the Commonwealth's case, it would still be going on. I wanted to make sure it was all true about Paul getting that DUI and about Paul hitting somebody and paralyzing somebody. And it is. And it's like, holy shit. The irony here. Paul literally almost kills somebody, but ends up paralyzing a guy in a vehicle in a drunk driving case. Karen Reed bails him out. And then a year later, his brother is found dead in the snow from blunt force trauma and hypothermia. And the woman that bailed you out of drunk driving incident is who you think murdered your brother, because she was mad about, she got mad somewhere between leaving the Waterfall Bar and arriving at 34 Fairview in that short amount of time, because all the video up until that point was perfectly fine, but something in that short amount of time triggered Karen Reed to the point that she, like he says, she knew exactly what she did, and then she went ahead and she pulled up the car, then reversed it, and just totally plowed into my brother. Like, I cannot believe that he fucking believes that shit. in Paul's accident at 24 miles an hour. And they're trying to say that Karen Reed. You can't make this shit up. Crazy. All right, guys. Well, that's going to end it over here. This very fact is why I asked myself what they did for Paul as a favor, or what they covered up for him. He may owe them. Yeah. I want to know more about Tully and Paul's relationship. Tully was at every meeting that Lally had with everybody. He knew what everybody was going to say. He knew what everybody was reporting. You know what I mean? He knew about everybody's police reports. He knew, Tully took the pictures when the CERT team was there. Tully's knee deep in all this shit. It's pretty bad. Paul told law enforcement he was going 24 miles an hour. Did you see those cars? Hot damn, 24 miles an hour. Paul and Tully were teammates. They played football together. Wild. He thinks everything's great. He thinks that the cops did a great job. God. Karen Reed helped Paul with the bail, I believe. Yep, she did. All right, guys, until next time, we can expect lots to happen here between now and next Monday. If you guys have not seen the Canton select board, I mean, woo! Check it out. These are the days of our lives continues until tomorrow. You guys rock. Popcorn for all. See you guys soon. Woo! Peace.